Chapter 1349. Ji Tianqing recalled the times he met Shi Zhongjian and felt that this guy was so silly that he was adorable. Shi Zhongjian was definitely not a smart person, but he was definitely the most reliable friend and brother. Lion, I hope that you and Song Long can support each other and grow in the other world. I hope that you and Song Long can be brothers forever, share life and death together, and always maintain a pure heart, Ji Tianqing murmured and bowed toward Shi Zhongjian's corpse. The mountain peak was in ruins, and the corpses of the hidden god sect disciples were everywhere. Now was not the time to bury the corpses, and he wouldn't waste time on this. Swoosh! His figure flashed, and he stepped over Shi Zhongjian and Song Long's corpses, continuing to rush towards the depths of the ruins. His eyes searched around, and he released his divine soul energy to cover the surroundings, searching for any survivors. 15 minutes later, he searched the entire mountain peak, and searched the ruins within a radius of dozens of miles. Although most of the people were dead and corroded into white bones by the devil Qi, he still managed to find one survivor. However, he still managed to find a survivor. It was an elder with the strength of a spirit-refining realm cultivator. This person was the Great Elder, and his physical body had been cut into several pieces, completely destroyed. Only a ball of broken divine soul was left, and it was still curled up in the mind of his physical body, almost unconscious and in a deep sleep. After Ji Tianqing found him, he hurriedly injected boundless magic power into him, and checked his injuries. In the Great Elder's mind, there was a large ball of dark red devil Qi that wrapped around his injured divine soul, and it was still corroding it. If no one came to save him, the Great Elder would definitely not be able to resist the corrosion of the devil Qi, and his divine soul would be destroyed in the end. Ji Tianqing hurriedly activated the power of the heaven-mending orb, and injected a strand of sacred white light into the Great Elder's mind, dispersing and purifying the devil Qi. The Great Elder gradually woke up, and he used a weak divine soul sound transmission to communicate with Ji Tianqing. Young Master Ji, why have you returned? Ji Tianqing cast a spell to heal the Great Elder, and asked anxiously, Great Elder, the matter is complicated, so I won't explain much. Where is Sect Master Shui? Were the devil race experts here for her? Where is she? The Great Elder thought for a moment before replying in a weak voice. Headmaster Darren fought the strongest expert of the demon race alone. During the battle, he left the sect and flew into the distant sky. I don't know where she is now or if she's still alive. Ji Tianqing frowned and asked again, then do you remember where Sect Master Shui and the others went? The first elder said, the situation was chaotic at that time. I vaguely remember that they seemed to have gone to the back of the mountain. Ji Tianqing nodded and stopped asking about it. Great Elder, I'll put you into my magic treasure first. You can rest and recuperate. I'll go find Sect Master Shui now. After saying that, he took the Great Elder's soul into the Sword World and placed it in a secret room in peaceful Earth City. Then, he got up and left the ruins of the mountain peak, flying to the back of the mountain as fast as lightning. He flew in the sky and released his spiritual energy, which spread out in all directions and covered an area of 50 miles. Whether it was the sky or the ground, nothing could escape the investigation of his spiritual energy. In the process of flying, he saw that the mountains behind Sunless Peak were filled with traces of battle. Many of the mountain peaks were slanted or had enormous ravines split open, causing dust and boulders to collapse. This was clearly caused by the shockwaves of the battle between experts. After about 100 breaths of time, he had flown more than 400 miles. Suddenly, he discovered that in the mountains ahead, there was an open space of 100 miles in radius. There had been several thousand-meter-tall mountains there, but they had all disappeared. Several of the mountains had collapsed, turning into endless dust that filled the deep valleys at the foot of the mountains. The open space of 100 miles was a stretch of scorched ruins, covered in deep pits and cracks. Ji Tianqing was immediately certain that the ruins that had been razed to the ground should be where the final battle would take place. As expected, when he used his spiritual energy to carefully investigate the ruins, he sensed a wisp of spiritual energy in a 1,000-meter deep pit. Even though the spiritual energy was very weak, it was much stronger than ordinary spiritual energy. He hurriedly flew to the top of the pit that was 20 miles in radius and looked down at the entire pit from above. He saw that the pit was like the mouth of a bowl, covered in fine black scorched earth and countless boulders. However, his gaze searched the entire pit and did not find Sect Master Shui's figure. He guessed that Shui Ruoyu was likely buried at the bottom of the pit, so he hurriedly used an earth attribute's secret art to dig up the dust in the pit. After 10 breaths of time, when he had dug 100 meters deep in the pit, he finally saw a figure. It was an old woman with a head full of silver hair, wearing a luxurious robe, and wearing a gemstone hair ornament and a jade crown on her head. The old woman's robe had long been soaked in blood, and had dried up along with the soil, condensing into a dark red color, looking rather tragic. She lay motionless in the deep pit, her face covered in dirty blood and dust, and her silver hair covered in dust, dim and dim. At this time, except for her primordial spirit that still existed and could still emit spiritual energy, she looked no different from a corpse. Sect Master Shui. She is an primordial spirit realm expert, how could she be injured like this? Seeing Shui Ruoyu's situation, Ji Tianqing's expression changed drastically, revealing a look of deep shock, and only felt that it was unbelievable. He could not imagine that there was an expert in the demon race who could injure Shui Ruoyu to the point of death. Swoosh! He descended from the sky and landed beside Shui Ruoyu, hurriedly reaching out to hold Shui Ruoyu's hand, wanting to inject spiritual energy into her to check her injuries. When he touched Shui Ruoyu's dark red hand that was covered in blood, he suddenly realized that the situation was not right. Shui Ruoyu's hand was soft as if it had no bones, like a piece of soft meat, without any support or strength. The phrase, soft and boneless, was usually used to describe a woman's hand that was light and soft. But now, Shui Ruoyu's hand really did not have any bones. Ji Tianqing frowned, and checked her injuries again, and discovered something even more terrifying. Shui Ruoyu's body was like a piece of soft meat, lying limply on the ground, without any support at all. All the bones in her body had been dug out. It was also because of this that her body was covered in more than 300 wounds, and her blood had almost been completely drained, completely dyeing her a person of blood. Ji Tianqing's pupils contracted, his face turned ashen, and his entire body started to tremble. Incomparable anger and hatred caused his teeth to creak, and the veins on his forehead to bulge. Damned demon race. Using such torture on Sect Master Shui, removing all the bones in her body. How vicious. How cruel. If I do not kill all the demon race in this life, how can I appease the hatred in my heart? Chapter 1350. Anger aside, the most important thing now was to save Shui Ruoyu. Ji Tianqing channeled a large amount of magic power into her body and used his spiritual power to check on her injuries. After 100 breaths of time, he finally found out about Shui Ruoyu's injuries. Her physical injuries were extremely miserable. Not only were all the bones in her body scraped, there were also hundreds of wounds on her body. Her physical body was on the verge of destruction and would need at least 10 years of recuperation to slowly recover. In the depths of her mind, there was a 2-inch tall golden figure floating. That was her primordial spirit. The golden figure was also unconscious and riddled with wounds. Its limbs were incomplete. To a primordial spirit realm expert, the primordial spirit was the source of life and power. The primordial spirit could leave the body and move freely even without the support of the physical body. However, Shui Ruoyu's primordial spirit's injuries were too severe. In comparison, her physical injuries were negligible. Ji Tianqing had not reached the primordial spirit realm and did not understand the structure of the primordial spirit. Naturally, he could not treat Shui Ruoyu's injuries. The only thing he could do was to continuously channel his soul power to help Shui Ruoyu recover some of her strength. In addition, Shui Ruoyu's primordial spirit was surrounded by a dense dark red blood aura that contained an extremely powerful and evil power. This dark red blood aura was like maggots attached to bones, constantly corroding her primordial spirit. Ji Tianqing channeled the power of the heaven-mending pearl and released a mysterious white light to help her remove the dark red blood aura around her primordial spirit. After a full hour, the dark red blood aura on her primordial spirit was removed and purified by the heaven-mending pearl. Shui Ruoyu's crisis was temporarily resolved and her consciousness gradually woke up. When Ji Tianqing saw that she was gradually regaining consciousness, he let out a sigh of relief and asked with concern, "Sect Master Shui, how is your situation?" Shui Ruoyu's physical body had no bones and her injuries were too severe. She could not move or speak at all. She could only reply to Ji Tianqing with her consciousness. She said weakly, "Little junior brother, why are you back? Quickly leave this place, it's dangerous." Ji Tianqing gently shook his head and said heavily, "Sect Master Shui, don't worry about me. You've already been unconscious for 2 days. The demon experts have already left." Hearing his words, Shui Ruoyu heaved a sigh of relief and said with some rejoicing, "Little junior brother, luckily you left in time and avoided this calamity. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." Ji Tianqing didn't reply and asked in a low voice, "Sect Master Shui, who attacked the hidden god sect?" Among the demon race, apart from the ancient demon emperor, were there any other essence soul powerhouses? The ghost emperor, who is the strongest among them, has personally gone to kill me. Who else can deal with the hidden god sect and injure you to this extent? Shui Ruoyu recalled for a moment, then said with a resentful tone, "There were 7 or 8 devil clan experts who attacked our sect. Among them, there were 2 devil commanders and several spirit refinement realm experts. However, these people were nothing to worry about. More than half of them have already been killed by me and the elders. The one with the most terrifying strength and the most mysterious background was their leader, Venerable Bloodlust. That fiend's strength is comparable to a second firmament essence soul, a level higher than mine." Venerable Bloodlust? Ji Tianqing frowned and muttered doubtfully, "In the demon race, below the demon emperor are the devil commanders. Why is there a venerable title? Sect Master Shui, what does that Venerable Bloodlust look like?" Shui Ruoyu said coldly, "That Venerable Bloodlust doesn't seem to be a demon. His origin is a ball of bloody light that can transform into all kinds of forms. He can turn into a giant that's 100 feet tall, a beast that's 1,000 feet tall, and a bloody light that's 1,000 miles long. He can even escape into the void and conceal himself. He's almost immortal. I exhausted all my strength and even sacrificed a divine artifact before I managed to injure and repel Venerable Bloodlust." At this point, Ji Tianqing was certain that the so-called Venerable Bloodlust was a blood god created by the demon emperor. "Sect Master Shui, before I killed the ghost emperor, he proudly said that the demon emperor had sent a few powerful blood gods to plunder a few divine items to complete the demon emperor's shocking scheme. According to what you've said, that Venerable Bloodlust should be a blood god." "Blood god?" Shui Ruoyu was stunned for a moment before she came to a realization. "I see, it's indeed the legendary blood god. When I was dealing with the Venerable Bloodlust, I saw that he wasn't a demon race elite, but he was more powerful than an ordinary demon. That's why I had such a thought. However, the blood god only exists in ancient legends and hasn't appeared for nearly 10,000 years. That ancient demon emperor is indeed ruthless. He's worthy of being called the great demon of the ages to be able to create the legendary blood god. If a few more blood gods like the Venerable Bloodlust appear, I'm afraid that all the races in the world will be unable to resist them. The entire Tianxian continent will be plunged into misery and suffering." Obviously, Shui Ruoyu also knew about the legend of the blood god. Ji Tianqing didn't need to explain the origin of the blood god. With a heavy heart, he said, "Sect Master Shui, actually, half a year ago, I killed 2 blood gods. At that time, there were 2 blood gods that wreaked havoc in the various cities of the East Sea and the territories of the Water Tribe. They spread all kinds of poisonous plagues and disasters, killing tens of millions of people. The blood gods absorbed the blood and souls of the people to strengthen themselves. In a short time, they reached the soul refinement realm from the heaven origin realm. However, I didn't expect that the Venerable Bloodlust who attacked the God-hidden sect was actually at the primordial soul realm. It's not hard to imagine that the Venerable Bloodlust is most likely one of the best among the blood gods. He must have killed at least hundreds of millions of people and martial artists to reach the primordial soul realm. Hearing him say so, Shui Ruoyu was instantly filled with worry. She asked in a low voice, Tianqing, you mean that the demon emperor has created a lot of blood gods? Ji Tianqing nodded and said, half a year ago, the imperial tutor told me that the demon emperor had created hundreds of blood gods. Now that half a year has passed, the demon emperor must have created even more blood gods. I'm afraid that the number has doubled. Moreover, in the past half a year, the continent has been plagued by disasters and wars. I don't know how many millions of people have been killed. Those blood gods must have reached the soul refinement realm. Shui Ruoyu became more and more nervous and worried. Doesn't that mean that the demon race has gained hundreds of soul refinement realm experts? The best of the blood gods are comparable to the primordial soul realm experts and have an immortal body? Ji Tianqing didn't answer. He just nodded in silence. His heart was getting heavier. Shui Ruoyu was silent for a while. Suddenly, she thought of something and cried out in alarm. Oh no! Little junior brother, quickly send a message to Emperor Yi and Xiao Wendian. Tell them to hide quickly. Chapter 1351. What? Emperor Yi and Xiao Wendian are also in danger? Ji Tianqing frowned and looked at Shui Ruoyu in confusion. Shui Ruoyu was also stunned and asked, Little junior brother, did the burial of heaven not tell you about this? What is it? Ji Tianqing was even more confused and could not make sense of it. Shui Ruoyu was sure that he did not know, so she explained patiently, you said just now that before the ghost emperor died, he revealed the demon emperor's plan and conspiracy to seize a few divine items. The venerable bloodlust attacked our sect to carry out the demon emperor's mission to seize a divine item. Its target is me, because that divine item is on me. Ji Tianqing nodded and asked, Sect Master Shui, what divine item is the demon emperor after? A special divine item? No. Shui Ruoyu's voice was cold. Shui Ruoyu's tone was cold and filled with hatred as she said, that divine item is the only keepsake that Master left for me. It is also Master's inheritance. Keepsake? Inheritance? Ji Tianqing frowned again. Shui Ruoyu said leisurely, it's Master's rib, a divine bone. What? It's Kenshin's rib? Ji Tianqing's face was filled with disbelief. Shui Ruoyu explained in a low voice, before Master left the Tianxian continent, he gave me a divine bone to integrate into my body in order to thank me for following and serving him. That divine bone is more mysterious than any divine item in the world. It allowed me to be reborn and my talent reached the peak. With the help of the divine bone, I could gradually become a soul refinement realm elite and break through to the primordial soul realm within 1,000 years. After 1,000 years of growth and refinement, the power of that divine bone has filled all of my bones and marrow. My skeleton is comparable to a divine item and I have become a complete set of divine bones. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing was enlightened and thought to himself, no wonder Shui Ruoyu remembers Kenshin's kindness and has always regarded Kenshin as her master. She worships Kenshin like a god. Even though Kenshin has been dead for 1,000 years, she has never betrayed him nor forgotten him. Shui Ruoyu continued, the venerable bloodlust attacked our sect to seize my divine bone. This is the divine item that the demon emperor mentioned. Although I can't guess the demon emperor's scheme, I'm sure that he sent other elites to deal with Emperor Yi and Xiao Wendian. Emperor Yi and Xiao Wendian are Master's disciples in name. Before Master left the continent, he gave them a divine item each. Respectively. The divine item that his master had given Emperor Yi was a divine dragon tendon that originated from ancient times. It was a dragon tendon pulled out from the body of a true divine dragon. The divine item is a drop of God's blood? According to Master, it is the blood of a real god from the ancient times. Ji Tianqing heard this secret for the first time and was even more shocked. He muttered in disbelief, Kenshin's divine bone, a dragon's tendon from an ancient god, and a drop of God's blood? Kenshin is really generous to his own disciple. No, just a disciple in name. He also gradually understood why Emperor Yi, Xiao Wendian, and Shui Ruoyu would follow Kenshin to death and respect him for their entire lives. Kenshin's peerless martial strength and charisma were truly the best in the world, causing people to admire him. At this moment, a thought even appeared in his mind. How good would it be if Kenshin was still alive? He also wanted to see Kenshin's peerless glory with his own eyes. Just as his thoughts were wandering, Shui Ruoyu reminded him, "Tianqing, don't waste any more time. Immediately send a message to them." Ji Tianqing was immediately embarrassed and said helplessly, "Sect Master Shui, when I said goodbye to them, I only promised to contact them in the future. I didn't leave any transmission jade slips." Under normal circumstances, the transmission jade slips of soul-refining powerhouses would have their own divine soul imprint. Two powerhouses would have to exchange transmission jade slips with each other in order to directly send the transmission jade slip to the other party. However, Ji Tianqing, Emperor Yi, and Xiao Wendian didn't exchange transmission jade slips. The only thing he could do was to send a transmission jade slip to Xiao Han and let him inform Xiao Wendian. On the other side, he sent a transmission to Long Yun Xiao in the central state, asking him to help send a message to Emperor Yi. After he sent the transmission jade slip, Shui Ruoyu felt a little more at ease. She said in a low voice, "I hope your message can arrive in time. It won't take too long, otherwise, sigh." Ji Tianqing also asked someone to help send the message. Of course, he couldn't guarantee that the message would arrive in time. He could only sigh and pray silently in his heart, hoping that nothing happened to Emperor Yi and Xiao Wendian. At this time, he suddenly remembered something and asked Shui Ruoyu, "Sect Master Shui, don't Kenshin have 4 in-name disciples? I've spent more than a year and searched all over the world, but I only found you, Emperor Yi, and Xiao Wendian. May I ask Sect Master Shui, who is the other in-name disciple? Is that person surnamed Gu?" Shui Ruoyu answered, her voice full of memories, "That's right. He's the eldest senior brother of the 3 of us, and also the genius that Master valued the most. His surname is indeed Gu, and his real name is Gu Daoxian. Unfortunately, after Master left the profound sky continent, he mysteriously disappeared. Now that 1,000 years have passed, the 3 of us are in different parts of the world and almost no longer contact each other. No one knows where our eldest senior brother went or where he went. Perhaps he's still alive, or perhaps he's already fallen. Perhaps he's still on this continent, or perhaps he's already followed in Master's footsteps and left this continent." Ji Tianqing listened carefully and muttered in his heart, "Gu Daoxian? Kenshin's most valued eldest disciple? Sect Master Shui, then what is the divine item that Kenshin gave to Gu Daoxian?" Shui Ruoyu was silent. She carefully recalled for a long time before she said in a deep voice, "I'm not too sure about the specifics. However, I've heard Ren Huangyi mention it once. Master values senior apprentice brother the most. Therefore, the divine item he gave senior apprentice brother was also the most astonishing. It said that the divine item that Master gave to his senior brother seemed to be a divine heart, the heart of an ancient divine spirit." What? The heart of an ancient divine spirit? Ji Tianqing's body shook, and his eyes widened slightly. The shock in his heart was like a stormy sea. Heavens! What kind of extraordinary and peerless expert was Kenshin back then? He took a rib from his body, and it was a divine bone. The gift he gave to an in-name disciple was either divine dragon tendons, divine blood, or even a divine heart. Kenshin couldn't have slain dragons and gods personally, killing divine dragons and ancient divine spirits, right? Seeing Ji Tianqing's shock, Shui Ruoyu said gently, "Little junior brother, you don't have to be so shocked. Master is not an ordinary person, and he's as powerful and noble as a divine spirit. He's omnipotent. He can create all miracles." Although the divine items that the 3 senior brothers received were all divine dragon tendons, divine blood, and divine hearts. Chapter 1352. Even the burial of heaven knew about Shui Ruoyu's feelings for Kenshin. Although the divine items that Kenshin gave to his 3 unnamed disciples were shocking treasures, they were merely worldly possessions. The only divine item that he gave to Shui Ruoyu was a rib bone that he took from his body. To Shui Ruoyu, this was extremely significant and important. Ji Tianqing understood this, which was why he felt sorry for Shui Ruoyu and hated the demon race even more. After all, after Venerable Bloodlust injured Shui Ruoyu, he removed all the divine bones in her body. Such a blood feud was absolutely irreconcilable. Ji Tianqing thought to himself, the demon emperor sent out a few of his most powerful blood gods to deal with Shui Ruoyu, Xiao Wentian, and Emperor Yi to seize their divine bones, divine dragon tendons, and divine blood. Why is the demon emperor doing this? What is his scheme and plan? Other than these 3, will the demon emperor deal with Gu Daoxian and seize his heart of God? Fortunately, Gu Daoxian has disappeared for 1,000 years. Even Shui Ruoyu, Emperor Yi, and Xiao Wentian don't know his whereabouts. The demon emperor shouldn't be able to find him, right? At this moment, Shui Ruoyu transmitted her voice to him, "Little junior brother, you don't have to stay here and take care of me. My injuries are too severe and can't be healed overnight. You have to report this matter to the emperor as soon as possible and ask for his help to destroy the demon emperor's plan. No matter what, we can't let the demon emperor's scheme succeed. Once the demon emperor obtains my divine bones, Emperor Ye's divine dragon tendons, and Xiao Wentian's divine blood, he will be able to condense an extraordinary body comparable to a divine artifact. If the demon emperor uses that divine body to carry out his scheme, I'm afraid no one on this continent will be able to stop him." Hearing Shui Ruoyu's reminder, Ji Tianqing's eyes flashed with a bright light. He immediately guessed the demon emperor's scheme. Could it be that the demon emperor seizing these divine items has something to do with reviving the ancestral demon god? When he thought of this, he became even more anxious and worried. No, I must stop the demon emperor's plan. I can't let him succeed. Ji Tianqing secretly clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with fierce killing intent. He said in a deep voice, "Sect Master Shui, I will immediately send a message to the emperor and ask the imperial court to send someone to clean up the mess of the hidden god sect. However, you can't stay here. It's too dangerous. I'll transfer you into my magic treasure space. You can go into seclusion to heal your injuries. I will personally go find Xiao Wentian and Emperor Yi and help them resist the blood god's attack, if there's enough time." Shui Ruoyu was shocked. She tried to dissuade him worriedly. "Little junior brother, even I am no match for venerable bloodlust. Even if you go and save them, I'm afraid it will be useless." Ji Tianqing shook his head and comforted her, "Don't worry, Master Shui. I've killed 2 blood gods before. I know their origins and weaknesses like the back of my hand. Moreover, I have the power and magic treasure to restrain the blood gods. Even if I encounter a primordial soul realm blood god, I still have a chance to kill it." Shui Ruoyu was finally relieved. She solemnly exhorted, "Little junior brother, you must be careful. Don't underestimate the enemy. Now, you are the hope of the 4 of us. You are also the only successor of Master. The responsibility on your shoulders is heavier than any of us." After she finished speaking, Ji Tianqing put her into the sword world and settled her in a secret room in peaceful Earth City, allowing her to recuperate in peace. After settling Shui Ruoyu down, he took out a communication jade slip and sent a message to the emperor. He reported the details of the incident to the emperor in full detail. After doing all this, he left the giant pit and flew into the sky. Swoosh! He rode the divine soul magic sword and streaked across the sky like a shooting star, rushing towards the southeast. The Xiao clan where Xiao Wentian lived was located in the southern wasteland swamp. The boundless world where Emperor Yi lived in seclusion was located in the Mangum mountain range. In comparison, the Vermilion Bird mountain range was closer to the southern wasteland swamp. Therefore, Ji Tianqing decided to make a trip to the southern wasteland swamp first to personally check on Xiao Wentian's situation. Even though he had already expended too much magic power and mental strength, he was truly physically and mentally exhausted. However, he did not dare to stop and rest. He did not even dare to slow down. He rushed towards the southern wasteland swamp with all his might. In the next 10 days, he rushed day and night without stopping for a moment. 10 days later, it was dusk. He was flying above a vast mountain range. Suddenly, a shocking scene appeared in the quiet and serene world of the sword. Ji Tianqing sensed the abnormality in the sword world and hurriedly released his divine soul power to check on the specific situation. He saw that there was a dazzling 7-colored pillar of light that shot into the sky from the city lord's residence in peaceful Earth City. That pillar of light was incomparably huge. It was 100 meters wide and thousands of feet tall. It contained boundless and mighty magic power. It wrapped around the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that was as vast as the sea. After it rushed into the sky, it scattered in all directions, turning into rolling 7-colored waves that spread out in all directions. In a short 10 breaths, the sky thousands of miles around peaceful Earth City was covered by the 7-colored light, turning into a dazzling and resplendent world. That 7-colored light that covered the sky emitted a vast and mighty spiritual energy. It actually condensed into 7-colored spiritual liquid that sprinkled down like a downpour. The land thousands of miles was covered by the 7-colored spiritual liquid rain, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to surge, the light dazzling. After the spiritual liquid landed on the ground, the land outside peaceful Earth City underwent a dramatic change visible to the naked eye. The boundless vast grassland grew wildly at an extremely fast speed. The weeds that were originally chopstick tall actually grew to half a person's height in 10 breaths. Those small trees and shrubs that were as tall as a person actually became trees that were 30 feet tall in a dozen breaths. Originally, this growth required 3 to 5 years. But under the nourishment of the monstrous spiritual liquid, it actually completed in a dozen breaths. This was simply an inconceivable miracle. Even within peaceful Soil City, a shocking change had taken place. Grass and trees sprouted from the streets and alleys. Countless flowers of various colors also sprouted from the roofs of the various houses. For a moment, the grayish-brown peaceful Earth City transformed into a kingdom of flowers and plants. It was like spring had returned to the earth. This wondrous sight left all the Earth Spirit commoners stunned. The commoners walked out of their homes and looked up at the resplendent 7-colored sky, exclaiming in shock. At this moment, the 7-colored light that covered the sky began to flow and transform, gradually condensing into tens of thousands of 7-colored specks of light. Each speck of light was the size of a wash basin. They flickered with dazzling light, hanging in the sky like stars. At least 90,000 specks of 7-colored light covered the sky, forming a majestic sea of stars. It was so mysterious and vast that it made one sigh in amazement. Ji Tianqing was so shocked by this wondrous sight that his heartbeat sped up. Chapter 1353. Yao Yao. Yao Yao must have refined the Neptunian divine orb, which is why it's causing such a phenomenon. Ji Tianqing's eyes flickered with light as he murmured excitedly. In the next moment, he personally entered the world within the sword and landed in Antares City. He directly made his way to the secret room where Yunyao cultivated. At the same time, the resplendent sea of stars that covered 1,000 miles of the sky dimmed and gradually dissipated. Many Earth Spirit commoners remained where they were, watching the phenomenon in the sky. They refused to disperse even after a very long time had passed. Swish! Ji Tianqing hurried to the entrance of the secret room with lightning speed. He saw dazzling, 5-colored light permeate the surroundings of the room, giving off powerful pulses of energy. The 5-colored light gradually receded, and the pulses of power gradually dispersed as well. Eventually, it completely dispersed. The surroundings of the secret room settled down. Ji Tianqing waited outside for 100 seconds before the door slowly opened. Swish! As the door of the secret chamber opened, a dazzling 5-colored brilliance surged out like a tide. Afterwards, an ethereal, fairy-like figure in a white dress walked out of the secret room, shrouded in 5-colored light. Ji Tianqing's eyes were fixed on her, carefully observing the changes in her. Even though her figure and appearance were the same as before, there wasn't much change. She had not changed much, but the minute changes made her even more beautiful. She really did seem like a fairy, otherworldly and otherworldly. When she walked out of the five-colored light, she was like a goddess from legends. She was so noble and holy that people could only look up to her and not profane her. Her beauty could not be described with words. No matter how fancy the words were, they would not be enough to describe her. Ji Tianqing was entranced. He was unable to shift his gaze away. There was only a single thought in his head: the goddess of Yaoguang, who was worshipped by all the people and revered by all the gods in the ancient times, should be like this, right? In the blink of an eye, Yunyao stopped in front of him and smiled gently at him. Tianqing, I've made you worry. Ji Tianqing was awakened by her voice. He immediately reached out to hold her soft hands and said, Yao Yao. You've been in seclusion for 3 months, and now you've finally succeeded. I see that you have changed a lot. You must have gained a lot, right? Yunyao nodded. She stared at him and said calmly and gently, that's right. After refining the Neptunian divine pearl, my vitality has increased by several times. I can extend my life by 10 years at the very least. Moreover, my magic power has increased by around 20 times and my strength has broken through to the 7th level of the soul refinement realm. I'm very close to the 8th level. The Neptunian divine pearl also has various wondrous effects, allowing me to open up my mind and allow my talent to reach a new level. I've even comprehended many secret techniques. Ji Tianqing became even more excited when he heard that. He said enviously, that's unbelievable. I've gone through so much danger and put in so much effort. I even endured the pain of being struck by the divine lightning and only managed to break through to the 7th level of the soul refinement realm after so much difficulty. Yao Yao, you only needed to refine a single Neptunian divine pearl to increase your cultivation by several levels, allowing you to reach the 7th level of the soul refinement realm. It really is the legacy of an ancient goddess after all. It actually has such heaven-defying effects. Sigh, it really is exasperating when you compare yourself to others. If others find out about this and make it public, everyone on the entire profound sky continent will be stunned by you, right? Yunyao smiled faintly and shook her head gently. It sounds simple, but refining the Neptunian divine pearl alone was also life-threatening. Fortunately, I succeeded. If I failed, my soul would have been stolen away by the Neptunian divine pearl instead, and I would have died immediately. No one can succeed so easily. Miracles that seem shocking often hide great danger and effort behind them. Ji Tianqing also nodded with a gentle smile. Yeah, that's the truth. I was just shocked earlier as well, and that's all. All in all, it's already extremely fortunate that you were able to refine the Neptunian divine pearl and increase your strength by countless times. Yunyao held his hand and looked at him in confusion. She asked, Tianqing, you must have gone through a lot of danger and suffered a lot during the 3 months I was in seclusion, right? Just now, I heard you say that you were struck by divine lightning. What's going on? It's a long story. Ji Tianqing told Yunyao everything that had happened in the past 3 months in full detail. Only then did Yunyao know that he had gone through so many dangerous and bizarre things. Only after a while of thought did she ask, Tianqing, are you going to the southern marsh right now to check on the Shao clan situation? Yes, Ji Tianqing nodded. Yunyao said in concern, you're physically and mentally exhausted right now, so it's not suitable for you to travel desperately. You need to recover as soon as possible. How about this? You stay in the sword world to recover, and I'll continue on my way with the sword of burial of heaven. After a moment of consideration, Ji Tianqing said, there's no need. You've just emerged from seclusion, and your strength has skyrocketed. You still need some time to recover and consolidate your cultivation. It's best for the little black dragon to take care of the journey. It's already recovered anyway. As a result, the matter was decided just like that. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao remained in the sword world to recover in a secret room in Anshui City. The little black dragon carried the sword of burial of heaven and flew through the sky with lightning speed, hurrying towards the southern marsh. In a dimly lit secret room, Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged on the ground. Beneath him was a soul-level spirit gathering formation to aid in his cultivation. He sat in the formation with a calm expression, and his deep eyes flashed with the light of contemplation. The first level of the path of Sword Soul is to condense the golden sword and magic sword. The second level is to condense the sword domain, a unique sword domain that belongs to oneself. In my current situation, it's a pity if I only condense an ordinary sword domain. I have to add other powers into the sword domain. Without a doubt, Ji Tianqing's seclusion in the secret room was not just to recover his magic power. He also wanted to use this opportunity to condense his own sword domain. The stronger he was, the more he desired the power of domains, and the more he wanted to condense his own sword domain as soon as possible. Once he successfully condensed his sword domain, his battle prowess would increase by at least twofold. After a long while, the light in his eyes gradually became determined. Other than the supreme sword Dao that Kenshin inherited, the most powerful powers that I control are the Divine Thunder and Divine Flame. Since that's the case, I'll combine the Divine Eye of Thunder and the God-slaying Spear into my sword domain. Both the Divine Thunder and Divine Flame are powerful powers that can kill enemies of a higher level. If I can successfully combine these two powers into my sword domain, it will produce an immeasurable power. At that time, my battle prowess will increase by at least 3 times. Chapter 1354. Ji Tianqing was pressed for time. He did not dare to waste any time and immediately went into seclusion to comprehend the second stage of the path of Sword Soul. The secret chamber was silent as time passed by. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Soon, 5 days had passed. For 5 whole days, he had been comprehending cultivation techniques and figuring out how to condense a sword domain. He had deduced, comprehended, and calculated thousands of times in his mind. Finally, he had simulated the embryonic form of the sword domain and had vaguely touched the threshold. He only needed half a month to try to condense the Divine Lightning Sword domain. However, just as he was about to try, the little black dragon's voice rang in his mind. "Old Ji, we are about to reach the Shao clan." Ji Tianqing was immediately jolted awake. He quickly ended his cultivation and left the sword world. Swoosh! With a flash of light, he appeared on the little black dragon's back. He looked ahead and saw that the surroundings were pitch-black quagmires that seemed boundless. A few hundred miles ahead, there were 2 adjacent mounds that stood tall in the pitch-black quagmires. The mounds were not big and were covered with dense forests and shrubs. That was the entrance to the Shao clan. It was called the Gemini Island by the Shao clan. Ji Tianqing frowned as he looked at the Gemini Island. He carefully observed the forests on the island and the quagmires around the island. Fortunately, the Gemini Island was well preserved. The forests on the island were still neat and tidy. There were no signs of fighting. The pitch-black quagmires around the Gemini Island were also as calm and silent as before. It seems like the demon race experts have not found this place yet. I hope that the tragedy has not happened and that I have arrived in time. Ji Tianqing secretly heaved a sigh of relief and prayed silently in his heart. After a while, he flew to the center of the Gemini Island and took out a token from his interspatial ring. This was the token that Shao Wentian had given him before he left the Shao clan. Not only could it activate the Shao clan's enchantment array, but it could also command all the Shao clan disciples. Ji Tianqing held the token in his hand and waved his right palm. Rays of golden light shot out as he executed the array Dao's secret art. In the blink of an eye, a dazzling white light lit up in mid-air and formed a wide door of light. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing stepped through the light gate without hesitation and entered the enchantment of the Shao clan. In the next instant, he entered Shao clan and saw a familiar scene. Beneath his feet was a vast and boundless grassland. The grass was waist-high, and the grass was filled with all kinds of flowers and plants. 100 miles ahead was a majestic mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles. It was like a brown dragon lying on the ground. The sky was blue with scattered white clouds floating in the sky. It looked very tranquil and lazy. Upon seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing was even more certain that the Shao clan had yet to suffer a calamity. He leaped into the sky, crossed the vast grassland, and flew toward the mountain range in the distance. On the majestic mountain range, there were a few mountain peaks. Magnificent palaces and residences were built on the mountain peaks. Many disciples of the Shao clan lived there. Ji Tianqing sighed in his heart. He had returned to the Shao clan after so many months. He wondered if the Shao clan's disciples still remembered him. Suddenly, his soul power detected a few large craters on the green grassland below him. In the hundreds of feet wide pits, dark red blood stains could be vaguely seen. There seemed to be a smear of dark white color. This is, Ji Tianqing frowned and released his spiritual power to investigate carefully. He then discovered that there were more than 10 skeletons buried in the deep pits. All of them were complete skeletons. He suddenly had a bad premonition and his face turned gloomy. As he continued to fly forward, he saw that there were deep pits and cracks on the vast grassland. In some inconspicuous places, such as the soil and the deep pits and the messy grass, there were dark red blood stains and skeletons scattered around. Oh no, I'm afraid something has happened to the Shao clan. Ji Tianqing's heart tightened. He quickly increased his speed and flew toward the mountain range. Not long after, he flew to the sky above a mountain peak. There was a huge manor on the mountain peak. There were dozens of palaces and residences built in it. Ji Tianqing knew that this was the residence of the third branch's disciples. It was called Tingfeng Garden. When he first came to the Shao clan, he stayed in this residence. At that time, this place was magnificent. All the gates and palaces in the manor were guarded by armored guards with swords. However, when he looked down at Tingfeng Garden from the sky, all he saw was a mess of ruins, as well as a ghastly scene. The magnificent palaces had collapsed and turned into rubble. They were piled up on the broken pillars and walls. Countless houses and residences were in ruins, as if they had been trampled by ancient beasts. The ground was covered with wide gullies, deep pits, and piles of brick and wood ruins. Dark red blood stains could be seen everywhere in the ruins. Many white skeletons were scattered around. Most of the skeletons were relatively well preserved. They were still in the position they were in before they died. Some of them were fleeing in panic, some were dodging desperately, and some were fighting back with all their might. However, without exception, these disciples of the Shao clan had died in a short period of time. Their flesh, blood, and souls had been extracted, leaving only skeletons behind. Ji Tianqing did not know anyone from the third branch. He could not tell who these skeletons belonged to when they were alive. However, he released his spiritual energy and searched the entire Tingfeng Garden for dozens of miles around the mountain peak. He did not find a single living person. There was not a single sound in the huge ruins. It was as silent as death. It was as eerie and terrifying as purgatory. All the signs before his eyes indicated that the Shao clan had been killed by the demon clan. Moreover, no one in Tingfeng Garden was left alive. Damn it. In the end, I was still one step too late. Ji Tianqing clenched his fists. His eyes were cold as he muttered in a cold voice. He did not stay in Tingfeng Garden. He quickly flew into the sky and headed for the neighboring mountain peak. Not long after, he investigated the mountain where the second branch's disciples lived. The situation was the same as Tingfeng Garden. The entire mountain peak's buildings were destroyed. The ground was shattered. Hundreds of skeletons were scattered in the messy ruins. Not a single person was left alive. Ji Tianqing's expression darkened. His eyes turned colder, and the killing intent around him boiled. He continued to fly to the third mountain peak, then the fourth, the fifth. After 15 minutes, Ji Tianqing flew back to the sky. He looked down at the entire mountain range with a sharp gaze. This mountain range, which had borne the glory of the Shao clan for thousands of years, had changed beyond recognition. It was as tragic as a purgatory on earth. The entire Shao clan, which had thousands of disciples in each branch, were all dead. The Shao clan, which used to be prosperous and lively, had been massacred by the demon clan. Not a single person was left alive. Ji Tianqing's body was wrapped in a layer of dark red killing intent. His hands were trembling in his sleeves. His eyes were dyed with a layer of blood red by the monstrous killing intent. Demon clan. Ancient demon emperor. Even if I kill all of you 1,000,000 times, it will not be enough to appease the hatred in my heart. Chapter 1355. In the entire Shao clan, thousands of innocent Shao clan disciples had died under the butcher knife of the demon clan. Ji Tianqing's killing intent and anger could not be washed away even with all the water in the world. After a long while, he slowly retracted his gaze and flew towards the Pillar of Heaven's mountains with a heavy heart. The Pillar of Heaven's mountains was the forbidden area of the Shao clan and also the place where the Shao clan's patriarch, Shao Wentian, lived in seclusion. This mountain was extremely huge and was over 10,000 meters tall. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens and earth, emitting a majestic aura. The first time Ji Tianqing saw Shao Wentian, it was at the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains. He clearly remembered that the peak of the mountain was surrounded by a sea of white clouds. On the peak of the mountain, there was a piece of flat land with a radius of 10 miles. It was filled with dark red spiritual feather maple trees. The dense spiritual feather maple leaves were red like fire, turning the peak of the mountain into a dark red world. In the depths of the forest, there was a 2-story wooden house. In the courtyard, there was a 300-meter tall green maple tree. When he first saw Shao Wentian was sitting under the green maple tree, facing the chessboard. He sat there for a long time without moving. Now, Ji Tianqing passed through the clouds and fog. When he arrived near the Pillar of Heaven's mountains, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. The 10,000-meter-tall mountain had disappeared. He passed through the layers of fog and saw the scene below clearly. It turned out that the towering Pillar of Heaven's mountains had been cut in half. The entire mountain had collapsed and turned into endless rocks. They were piled up in the deep valley at the foot of the mountain, forming a few hundred miles of ruins. The ground around the Pillar of Heaven's mountains was filled with wide gullies and deep pits. The nearby mountains were also affected and turned into rubble. What a tragic scene! Ji Tianqing could imagine the scene of Shao Wentian and the blood god fighting just by looking at the few hundred miles of ruins and the huge cracks in the surroundings. They must have fought until the mountains collapsed and the sun and moon lost their light. After a moment of silence, he quickly collected his thoughts and released his spiritual energy to search carefully in the ruins. Shao Wentian, you must not die. The Pillar of Heaven's mountain that supported the Shao clan's barrier has collapsed. You, the pillar that supported the Shao clan, can't fall too. He prayed silently in his heart as he looked around anxiously. An invisible divine soul power covered an area of dozens of miles and went deep into the ground to search, not missing a single inch. Time passed quietly. The surroundings of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains were deathly silent. Even the air seemed to have frozen. Ji Tianqing's face became more and more solemn, and his expression became more and more unsightly. Very quickly, an hour passed. He searched the area within a radius of a few hundred miles, almost turning the entire ruins upside down. However, he still couldn't find Shao Wentian. He didn't even find a corpse or a fragment of a magical treasure. Damn it! How could this be? Even if Shao Wentian was killed, there shouldn't be no trace left behind. Ji Tianqing was filled with anxiety. He stared at the ruins with gloomy eyes and muttered to himself. He was unwilling to give up, so he searched the ruins of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains from top to bottom. This time, he searched even more carefully. His divine soul power went deep into the ground for 40 miles, and even a grain of sand had to be checked. Finally, after an hour, when he searched to the edge of the ruins, he finally found something. 30 miles underground, in the layers of rock layers, there was a subtle fluctuation of dermic powers. This discovery made Ji Tianqing energized. A glimmer of hope reappeared in his despondent eyes. Swoosh! He quickly used the earth escape technique and drilled deep into the ground, flying towards the rock layer. In just a few seconds, he was 40 miles underground and drilled into the rock layer that was as hard as steel. After a careful inspection, he found a black metal piece in the dense and thick rock layer. He held the metal piece in his palm and observed it carefully. He saw that the black metal piece was only the size of a fingernail. It looked simple and ancient, as if it had gone through tens of thousands of years. The edges of the metal piece weren't regular, and there were many cracks on it. It was like a fragment of a magical treasure that had been broken. No matter how he looked at it, this black metal piece was unremarkable. It was no different from scrap metal. But Ji Tianqing was very sure that the fluctuation of dermic powers just now came from this black metal piece. He took the black metal piece and left the underground, and returned to the sky. Holding the black metal piece in his hand, he turned it over and over for a long time. Then, he gradually found some clues. The facts proved that his guess was not wrong. This black metal piece was indeed a fragment of an ancient magical treasure. It still contained a mysterious power. He used his divine soul power to infuse into the black metal piece, and vaguely found that there was a small magical treasure space in the black metal piece. But, the magical treasure space was protected by a mysterious array. If he wanted to investigate the situation in the magical treasure space, he had to break the protective array. I searched all around the Pillar of Heaven's mountains, but I didn't find Xiao Wendian, nor did I find any useful clues. The only clue is this black metal piece. I hope it can bring about a miracle. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself. He then focused on studying the array and thinking of a way to break it. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Very quickly, 10 hours had passed. He studied for half a day, and even entered the Kenshin Palace, and went to the Heavenly Book Pavilion. Only then did he find information about the mysterious array. In the end, he was sure that this black metal piece was a product of the ancient era. It should be a fragment of some magical treasure. He pondered for an entire day, and only then did he deduce a way to break it. Then, he started to cast spells to break the array. 2 days later, he used all his skills and exhausted his mind. Finally, he broke the protective array of the magical treasure space. The magical treasure space lost its protection and was exposed to him without any secrets. He didn't care about catching his breath. He impatiently released his divine soul power, and probed into the magical treasure space. He saw that in the magical treasure space with a radius of 30 feet, there was a dried corpse lying there. The dried corpse was a human male. The green robe he wore had long been torn, and had become a pile of rags. There was not a single drop of blood in the corpse. It was dry as if it had been baked. The withered skin and muscles tightly wrapped around a skeleton. It had long lost its breath of life. However, in the head of the dried corpse, there was a very weak divine soul fluctuation that was gently pulsing. Although the dried corpse was beyond recognition, and it was impossible to distinguish its gender and age. Ji Tianqing was not unfamiliar with the divine soul fluctuation that came from the dried corpse. His face suddenly changed, and he exclaimed in disbelief, "Xiao Wendian. It's actually Xiao Wendian. He has been drained of blood and turned into a dried corpse, and he's still hiding in this black metal piece?" Seeing the dignified old man from back then turn into such a miserable state, other than shock, Ji Tianqing felt even more anger and hatred. Shui Ruoyu's divine bone had been removed, and Xiao Wendian's divine blood had also been extracted. Chapter 1356. The situation was urgent. Ji Tianqing had no choice but to suppress his anger and treat Xiao Wendian immediately. He first channeled a vast amount of spiritual energy into Xiao Wendian's body to help him replenish his spiritual energy. An hour later, Xiao Wendian's soul fluctuations became even stronger, and his injuries gradually stabilized. Ji Tianqing spent an entire day carefully treating his spiritual energy injuries and removing the demonic qi from his spiritual energy. Next, he used the green wood genuine qi to heal Xiao Wendian's body. Unfortunately, Xiao Wendian's body had become a dried corpse and had lost all vitality. Even if Ji Tianqing spent an entire day using the green with genuine qi to heal Xiao Wendian, it was useless. Helpless, he could only put Xiao Wentian's body into the sword world and placed it in the green light treasure tree. The green light treasure tree's boundless vitality and green with genuine qi could nourish Xiao Wentian's body for a long time and prevent it from being damaged. In the future, Ji Tianqing could think of a way or find a suitable blood for Xiao Wentian. Only then could he truly save Xiao Wentian's body. After all, if he wanted to restore Xiao Wentian's body to life, he needed fresh blood. Ji Tianqing temporarily settled Xiao Wentian down. He then turned around and left the ruins, flying toward the exit of the Xiao clan's barrier. An hour later, he left the Xiao clan through the exit of the barrier. Standing in the sky above Gemini Island, he looked down at Gemini Island and muttered to himself, "Other than Xiao Wendian, the entire Xiao clan has been annihilated. I, Ji Tianqing, will remember this blood feud in my heart. I will use my life to kill the Demon King and avenge the Xiao clan." After saying that, he summoned the little black dragon and flew high into the sky. The Hidden God sect and the Xiao clan have suffered a great calamity. Shu A Ruoyu and Xiao Wentian had their divine bones and divine blood stolen by the blood god. I hope Emperor Yi has already received the news and can leave the Mangu mountain range in time to avoid this calamity. With a heavy heart, he prayed silently. The little black dragon flew across the sky like a ray of light and returned to Zhongzhou at the fastest speed possible. Ji Tianqing entered the sword world and continued to cultivate in seclusion, trying to condense the divine lightning sword domain. Unknowingly, half a month had passed. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion for 15 days and nights, and he was beginning to see results. After thousands of attempts, he had already comprehended the essence of the sword domain and could successfully condense it. Moreover, the sword domain contained the power of golden divine flames and purple lightning, and it could release powerful killing moves. However, Ji Tianqing's foundation was still shallow. The divine lightning sword domain that he condensed was not big. It could only cover an area of 10 miles. He still needed a long time to comprehend and cultivate in order to make the divine lightning sword domain wider, more stable, and more powerful. On the evening of the 16th day, Ji Tianqing returned to the central continent and arrived at the heaven-connecting peak in the depths of the sky-connecting mountain range. Under the setting sun, heaven-reaching peak was as majestic and imposing as ever. The many palaces on the mountain peak were also covered with a layer of dazzling golden light. Ji Tianqing was not in the mood to enjoy the beautiful scenery. He flew to the mountainside as fast as the wind and wanted to enter the imperial court to have an audience with the emperor. After the imperial court guards at the mountainside confirmed his identity, they respectfully let him pass. He hurried to the mountaintop and entered the heavenly palace under the lead of the imperial guard captain. Still in the spacious and bright study, he saw the emperor who was dealing with military affairs. The emperor was wearing a golden dragon robe and a purple gold dragon jade crown. He was leaning over the large table, holding the imperial brush and writing a personal decree. Ji Tianqing entered the study and bowed with a calm expression. Ji Tianqing pays his respects to the emperor. The emperor did not raise his head. He was still holding the imperial brush and writing the decree. He said in a low and dignified tone, "Ji Tianqing, wait at the side first. We will talk after this emperor deals with the military affairs." Ji Tianqing acknowledged and stood in place to wait. He silently glanced at the table and saw dozens of memorials piled up on the table. Most of them were urgent military memorials. Seeing the emperor's solemn expression and the deep worry between his brows, he had a bad premonition. He was afraid that the war at the front line was in a critical situation. After 100 breaths, the emperor finally finished writing the decree. He called for an imperial guard to pass the decree down. After the imperial guard left, the emperor put down the imperial brush in his hand. He closed his eyes and leaned back on the jade chair. His right hand gently rubbed the space between his eyebrows, revealing a tired expression. "Ji Tianqing, this emperor has received the communication jade slip you sent to this emperor. This emperor already knows about what happened to the Hidden God sect and the Demon Emperor's conspiracy. Although the Hidden God sect was destroyed and suffered heavy casualties, their mission was completed. It is already very fortunate that you were able to obtain the Heavenly Dipper God Fire Cauldron. Ji Tianqing nodded and reported in a heavy tone. After leaving the Hidden God sect, this subordinate rushed to the Shao clan in the Great Swamp of the Southern Wasteland. Unfortunately, this subordinate was one step too late. When this subordinate arrived at the boundary of the Shao clan had also suffered a great calamity and was completely destroyed. The Shao clan was also destroyed by the demon race. The emperor suddenly opened his eyes and looked at him with a sharp gaze. What about Shao Wendian? Is he still alive? Ji Tianqing said in a low voice. Fortunately, he is not dead. However, his physical body has been destroyed. Only a trace of his divine soul is left. I don't know how long it will take for him to recover. The emperor's gaze was somewhat gloomy. He said in a resentful tone, the Hidden God sect and the Shao clan have both been killed. The only one left is Emperor Yi, who is living in seclusion in the Mangum mountain range. After you sent this emperor the message, this emperor asked Yuan Shao to personally bring people to the Mangum mountain range to pass on the message. Ji Tianqing quickly asked, what was the result? Did the emperor see Emperor Yi? The emperor shook his head and said in a low voice, when Yuan Shao brought people to the Mangum mountain range, they could not find the entrance to the boundless world at all. They returned empty-handed 10 days ago. According to Yuan Zhao's report, there were traces of fighting near the entrance to the boundless world. The mountains and rivers were all destroyed. Yuan Shao suspected that the boundless world had been destroyed. That was why they could not find the entrance. When the emperor said this, Ji Tianqing suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His entire heart turned cold. In that case, Emperor Yi has also met with misfortune. He was attacked by the demon race experts. The emperor nodded slightly and said worriedly, previously, you mentioned in the Jade Slip that the demon emperor wants to seize a few divine objects. It is a shocking conspiracy. It is very likely that it is related to the ancestor demon god. Based on the current situation, the demon emperor has very likely obtained 3 divine objects. His plan is not far from success. No matter what, we cannot let his scheme succeed. Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a serious tone, there should not be any problems in the short term. I will do my best to stop it. After a pause, he asked again, Emperor, this subordinate sees that you look anxious and worried. Are you worried about the battle at the front line? The emperor looked at him deeply and nodded. He said in a low voice, the battle at the northern border has been completely defeated. Chapter 1357. Ji Tianqing had been running around outside for half a year and had never heard about the situation of the battlefield. He did not understand the situation of the continent. When he suddenly heard this news, he knew that the war was so tragic. The situation of the Tianxian land had developed to such a severe state. His body stiffened as he stood on the spot, revealing a face full of disbelief. He lost his voice and asked, how could this be? Didn't the demon race start a war with my race, the water race, and the demon race at the same time? The demon race army is fighting on 3 fronts, how could they still have such terrifying power? The emperor looked to the north with a gloomy expression. He said with a serious tone, the demon race has removed the bloodline shackles and developed rapidly, but this is not the main reason. The real culprit is the blood god's illusions created by the demon emperor. Each blood god's illusions is a killing weapon on the battlefield, a peerless murderous weapon. They can absorb the blood and soul of the dead to quickly increase their power, and they can also create earth-shattering disasters. Just over 60 blood god's illusions were sent to the northern border battlefield, but in just half a year, they have all grown to the refined spirit realm. The best of them, who killed the most soldiers and civilians, even broke into the primordial spirit realm. The blood god's illusions with such power are called supremes by the demon race. They are simply the demons on the battlefield, no one can stop them. Ji Tianqing's expression and mood were extremely gloomy. He nodded and said, I already expected this to happen, but I didn't expect this day to come so quickly. Emperor, what do you plan to do next? The emperor was silent for a moment, then he said in a low voice, "Not only my race's defense line has collapsed, the water race and the demon race are also in the same situation. They also cannot resist the attack of the demon race army. For now, my race's soldiers can only shrink the defense line and keep retreating. I would rather give up the border and part of the territory than make unnecessary sacrifices and let the demon race's power grow crazily. If we want to stop the demon race's attack and turn the situation around, we must think of a way to deal with the blood god's illusions. I have already ordered all the elite warriors that can be mobilized to the northern border battlefield and wait for an opportunity to encircle the blood god's illusions." Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and nodded. The imperial emperor is wise. The blood god is the biggest threat and must be dealt with first. However, the blood god's scions have a special physique that is almost immortal. They need special power and methods to completely destroy them. The imperial emperor nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "Of course, I know this." The imperial court has a batch of magic treasures and secret manuals that can restrain the power of the blood god. This emperor has already passed down the order to bestow those talismans and secret arts to the experts and generals who are rushing to the battlefield. Pausing, he looked deeply at Ji Tianqing and said, "You don't have to worry about the war for now. The imperial court will do its best to deal with it. You've just returned to the central state, so you must have many things to do. Go and do your own things. When the imperial court truly needs you, I will naturally send you the order." Ji Tianqing understood what he meant, so he cupped his hands and bowed, "Yes, your majesty." This subordinate will take his leave. Go. The imperial emperor waved his hand and picked up the memorial on the table, continuing to deal with official business. Ji Tianqing turned and walked out of the study, quickly leaving the imperial court. 12 hours later, Ji Tianqing returned to the central state city as fast as lightning. Standing in the middle of the bustling and vast city, in the middle of the crowded streets, he looked at the familiar scenery around him, and a complicated feeling arose in his heart. 10 months ago, when I left the central state city, I was only at the third layer of the soul refinement realm. Now, after 10 months of running and suffering, my strength has increased by more than 10 times, reaching the 7th layer of the soul refinement realm. The central state city is still bustling and the people are still living and working in peace. But I don't know how long this peaceful and quiet life can last. The human army's defense line was constantly collapsing and the demon army had already killed their way into the human territory. His heart was filled with worry, as if he could foresee that the demon army would soon kill their way into the central state city. At that time, what kind of scene would the central state city be like? Just as his thoughts were churning, a spiritual light suddenly flew over from the sky and landed in front of him. He reached out and grabbed the spiritual light, only to see that it was a communication jade slip. However, this communication jade slip was not for him. The jade slip had Yunyao's soul imprint, so it was obviously sent to Yunyao by someone else. He hurriedly opened the sword world and woke up Yunyao, who was cultivating. Swish! With a flash of white light, Yunyao left the sword world and appeared beside Ji Tianqing. After she landed, she looked around and revealed a relaxed expression. "Tianqing, have we returned to the central state city?" Ji Tianqing nodded and handed the communication jade slip to her. "Yao Yao, here is your communication jade slip." Yunyao glanced at the silver-white communication jade slip and hurriedly reached out to take it. She injected her divine sense into it and read the information in the jade slip. A moment later, she finished reading the information in the jade slip and put it away. Her expression was a little hesitant. After hesitating for a moment, she said to Ji Tianqing, "Tianqing, this jade slip was sent by my father. He asked me to hurry back to Cloud Soul Palace. There is something important." "Uncle asked you to return to Cloud Soul Palace?" Suddenly hearing this news, Ji Tianqing's expression changed slightly and he frowned. A thought flashed through his mind and he had a bad premonition. There are only 2 months left until the 1-year deadline set by the palace master. Uncle Yun wants Yao Yao to return to Cloud Soul Palace. I'm afraid it has something to do with this matter. Is Yao Yao going to be taken away? Thinking of this, his heart tightened and his fists secretly clenched in his sleeves. Yunyao saw that his expression was a little strange and knew that he was worried. She held his hands and said gently, "Tianqing, you don't have to worry. I know what to do. I'll go back to Cloud Soul Palace first and see why my father is looking for me. At that time, if there is any situation or change, I'll contact you again." Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and shook his head. He said, "Yao Yao, I'll go back to Cloud Soul Palace with you. Sect Master Shui and Xiao Wentian are both heavily injured. I can ask Miracle Dr. Bailey to save them." "That's good too." Yunyao nodded and agreed without hesitation. But at this moment, another light flew from the sky and landed in Ji Tianqing's hand. The five-colored light wrapped around a communication jade slip. The jade slip had his divine sense imprint on it. It was sent to him. He held the jade slip in his hand and injected his divine sense into it. He immediately received the message in the jade slip. This jade slip was sent by Long Yun Shao. There was only one sentence in it. Chapter 1358. Ji Tianqing's expression changed when he saw the message, and a glint flashed in his eyes. He quickly put away the jade scroll and said to Yunyao, "Yao Yao, go back to Cloud Spirit Palace first. I have an urgent matter and need to go to the Monarch Palace to see someone." Yunyao saw his strange expression and had a bad feeling in her heart. She was a little worried. She stared at Ji Tianqing and said in a serious tone, "Tianqing, I know that you have always been calm and wise. You are not an impulsive person. Right now, the situation on the continent is chaotic and our race is in danger. You cannot act rashly and must consider the big picture. Whether it is for the human race or for your own safety, you must consider the long term. You would rather endure for now." Without a doubt, Yunyao's words had a deeper meaning. She thought that Ji Tianqing was going to see the Monarch Palace's master and was worried that there would be some conflict. Ji Tianqing also stared at her and said in a serious tone, "Ao Yao, we have known each other for many years but the time we have spent together is very short. To have you as my confidant and to marry you is the luckiest thing in my life. We have been through so many ups and downs together. Perhaps there will be more twists and turns and dangers in the future. But no matter what, I will always protect you. If one day we are separated, I will find you even if I have to go up to the heavens and down to the earth." At this point, the two of them fell silent and looked at each other with deep emotions. Yunyao slowly opened her arms and hugged Ji Tianqing tightly. She leaned on his shoulder and closed her eyes to feel his heartbeat and breathing. After a long time, she finally left Ji Tianqing's embrace and waved goodbye to him. She turned and flew into the sky, far away. Ji Tianqing stood on the crowded street and watched her figure disappear into the sky. He stood there for a long time before he withdrew his gaze and flew back to the Forest of Divine Monuments. Not long after, he returned to the Monarch Palace. After 10 months, the Monarch Palace was still peaceful and there was no change. He flew across the sky as fast as lightning, passing through the grasslands and numerous mountain peaks, rushing towards Yunshao Peak where Long Yunshao lived. As he hurried along, he also had some doubts in his mind. Strange, since the outbreak of the demon race's chaos, Long Yunshao has been busy dealing with government affairs and rarely returned to the monarch's residence. Why would he ask me to meet him in Cloudy Palace? Could it be that there's more to it? In a short while, he arrived at the Cloud Peak and landed outside the Cloud Palace. When the guards at the gates saw him, they immediately bowed and welcomed him into the palace. Under the guidance of the guard, he passed through the courtyard and layers of palaces. He quickly walked into the depths of the palace and arrived outside a secret room. He pushed open the heavy stone door and stepped into the secret chamber. In the dimly lit secret room, there were 3 people present. One of them was a handsome young man in a golden dragon robe. It was Long Yunshao, whom he had not seen for a long time. The other person was a middle-aged man in a black robe. He was a divine master from the monarch mansion and was good at healing. In addition, there was an ice jade bed in the corner of the secret chamber. An old man in a green robe lay on top of it. The old man's body was tall and straight, and he had a head full of gray hair. His chiseled face was filled with the marks of the vicissitudes of time. Ji Tianqing recognized him at a glance. This old man in a green robe was Emperor Yi. However, Emperor Yi lay motionless on the ice jade bed. His clothes were tattered and covered with dark red bloodstains. Even his white hair was dirty and messy with blood. He looked very miserable. His body was somewhat distorted, and his vitality was very weak. The power of his consciousness was also somewhat obscure. It was obvious that his consciousness had suffered heavy damage. The divine master in a black robe was in front of the ice jade bed, circulating his energy and casting a spell to check on Emperor Ye's injuries. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing's heart was in his mouth, and he was full of worry. Long Yunxiao heard the footsteps and immediately turned to look at the door. Seeing Ji Tianqing come, he hurriedly came up and said, "Tianqing, you're finally back." "That's great." Ji Tianqing nodded at him and greeted, "Son of Heaven, thank you for your trouble." Long Yunxiao did not exchange pleasantries with him and hurriedly pulled him in front of the ice jade bed. "Tianqing, quickly come and take a look. Is this the Emperor Yi you're looking for?" Ji Tianqing sized up Emperor Yi, nodded, and said, "That's right, it's him." "Son of Heaven, what's going on here? Why is Emperor Yi here?" Long Yunxiao hurriedly explained, "Back then, when I received your message, I personally led people and rushed to the Mangum mountain range to pass on the news to Emperor Yi. Unexpectedly, when we arrived near the entrance of the boundless world, we discovered that a great battle had occurred there. We searched a radius of several hundred miles and could not find the barrier entrance, so we could only return without any results. This afternoon, I was busy dealing with government affairs when a guard suddenly came to report that there was an old man in a green robe outside the Forest of Divine Monuments and wanted to enter the monarch mansion to look for you. When I rushed to the Forest of Divine Monuments, I saw that he was being carried by a sky chief bird and had long been seriously injured and unconscious. I guessed that he might be Emperor Yi, so I brought him and the sky chief bird into the monarch mansion and settled them in Yunxiao Palace." After hearing Long Yunxiao's explanation, only then did Ji Tianqing come to a realization and said, "So that's how it is. Son of Heaven, I thank you for your life-saving grace on behalf of Emperor Yi." Long Yunxiao hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Between you and me, what's the use of the word thanks? Emperor Ye's injuries are too serious, and he's been unconscious all along. I'm powerless to do anything, so I invited Divine Master Lu to treat him. In addition, that Emperor Ye's sky chief bird also has soul refinement realm strength and can communicate with me. Just now, I already asked it, and only then did I know the whole story. 20 days ago, the fiend race powerhouses attacked the boundless world and beat Emperor Yi until he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Emperor Yi used all his strength and used a forbidden secret art to escape with his life, shaking off the fiend race's pursuit. The sky chief bird carried Emperor Yi away from the Mangu mountain range and escaped to Zhongzhou city after many hardships. He came to inform you. He was afraid that you didn't know about the fiend race's conspiracy, so he desperately rushed to the monarch mansion, wanting to remind you to be on guard." Ji Tianqing nodded to show that he understood, but his mood became increasingly heavy. Not long after, Divine Master Lu finished channeling and stopped casting the art. Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao both looked at him and asked with full concern, "Divine Master Lu, how are Emperor Ye's injuries?" Divine Master Lu's expression was very grave. He shook his head helplessly and said, "His injuries are really too serious. His physical body was almost destroyed, and all the meridians in his body were removed. His divine soul's injuries are even more serious. Not to mention that it's on the verge of shattering, it's also surrounded by powerful fiend qi, and the power of his divine soul is weakening day by day. With my skill and medical attainments, it's also very difficult to effectively treat him." Hearing up to here, Long Yunxiao was also full of worry and shouted with anger, "Damn fiend race, actually removing all the meridians in his body? What cruel methods!" Ji Tianqing's expression was also ice-cold, murderous intent boiling in his chest. Chapter 1359. Divine Master Lu, thank you for your trouble. Please go and rest. Leave this to me. Ji Tianqing thanked Divine Master Lu and gestured for him to leave. Divine Master Lu tactfully bowed and left the secret chamber. When Long Yunxiao saw that Ji Tianqing was going to treat Emperor Yi, he found an excuse, got up, and walked out of the secret chamber. Only Ji Tianqing and Emperor Yi were left in the secret chamber. It immediately quieted down. Ji Tianqing personally cast a spell. After checking Emperor Ye's injuries, he began to treat him. He first treated Emperor Ye's physical injuries. He used the majestic green wood vital qi to repair the many wounds and damaged organs. Half a day later, Emperor Ye's physical injuries gradually stabilized. He then activated the power of the Heaven Mending Pearl to clear the demonic energy in Emperor Ye's mind and replenish his spiritual energy. After a whole day of treatment, Emperor Ye's injuries finally stabilized. His life force also returned to normal. He had passed the danger. Ji Tianqing put him into the sword world and settled him in a secret chamber in Unta City, allowing him to slowly heal himself. After a day and night of channeling, Ji Tianqing was a little haggard and exhausted. He sat in the secret chamber and meditated, silently recuperating his spiritual energy and recovering his spiritual energy. About 4 hours later, Long Yunxiao's voice suddenly came from outside the secret chamber. Tianqing, the guards of the Imperial Monarch residence are here to see you. Ji Tianqing immediately ended his cultivation, got up, and walked out of the secret chamber. Outside the door of the secret chamber, 2 people were waiting for him. In addition to Long Yunxiao, there was also a middle-aged man in black armor with a dignified appearance. He was the captain of the Imperial Guard. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly as he looked at him and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" The captain of the Imperial Guard transmitted his voice to him and said, "Prince Tianqing, the palace master wants to see you. Please come with me." Ji Tianqing's body suddenly shook. He frowned and thought, the palace master wants to see me? A year hasn't passed, and he has already returned to the palace master? He vaguely guessed that the reason the manor head summoned him to the imperial palace was probably related to Yunyao. Thus, he nodded expressionlessly and followed the guard out of the cloudy palace, flying towards the imperial palace. The 2 of them flew across the sky at lightning speed. A quarter of an hour later, they arrived at the depths of the monarch mansion, at the peak of the 10,000-meter-tall mountain. Shwa! The 2 of them descended from the sky and landed outside the ancient palace gates. When the guards on both sides of the gates saw Ji Tianqing arrive, they opened the gate of the palace. Ji Tianqing walked up the stone steps, stepped through the ancient and heavy bronze door, and entered the main hall. Boom! With a muffled bang, the heavy bronze door closed. He stood in the spacious hall and looked up at the throne in front of him. On that extremely noble and luxurious throne sat a burly man in a purple robe with a head full of white hair. On both sides of the throne, there was a dark golden statue of a dragonborn and a statue of a harpy. This was already the 3rd time Ji Tianqing had entered the imperial palace, but the scene in the hall had not changed at all. However, every time he entered the imperial palace and met the manor head in person, his feelings were different. With mixed feelings, he walked to the center of the hall and stood there. He bowed towards the manor head and said, "Greetings, manor head." The manor head had been resting with his eyes closed the entire time. Only when he heard his voice did he slowly open his eyes. Shwa! When he opened his eyes, a dazzling light flashed through them. His presence changed slightly as well, like a huge dragon that had awakened from its slumber. He looked down at Ji Tianqing calmly and said indifferently, "Have you completed the mission I gave you before I left?" Ji Tianqing nodded, "Manor head, I've successfully found a Neptunian divine pearl in the sun and moon furnace. I've completed the mission successfully." The manor head raised an eyebrow and said with some interest, "So it really was hidden in the sun and moon furnace? It probably didn't go so smoothly, did it?" Ji Tianqing did not hide anything and answered honestly, "It really didn't go so smoothly. The sun and moon furnace is a god artifact of the world. It's extremely dangerous. I almost lost my life in order to obtain the Neptunian divine pearl." The manor head nodded slightly and said in relief, "In terms of strength, you can't make it into the top 50 of the profound sky continent, but you're a person of miracles. Even soul transformation experts can't compare to you. You praise me too much, Manor Head, Ji Tianqing replied calmly. The Manor Head no longer discussed this matter. He said sternly, do you know why I've summoned you here? Ji Tianqing did not hide what he was thinking either. He answered honestly, if I've guessed correctly, it should be related to Yun Yao, right? The Manor Head looked at him deeply and nodded, that's right. You're very smart. The 1-year period that I set back then is almost up. It's about time for Yun Yao to leave. Ji Tianqing was already mentally prepared. Even if the Manor Head revealed everything to him, he would not be surprised or angry. He stared at the Manor Head and asked in a deep voice, may I ask, Manor Head, why must you take Yun Yao away? The Manor Head had already expected him to ask such a question. He said indifferently and sternly, because she has a reason to leave. Her life was given to her by me. More than 20 years ago, when I saved her, we made this agreement. You can see it as a deal between Cloud Spirit Palace and me. However, no matter what, Cloud Spirit Palace has to keep their promise. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and asked again in a deep voice, if I ask you now not to take Yun Yao away, will you agree? He paused and added, I'm willing to pay the corresponding price or conditions. The Manor Head shook his head and said in an indisputable tone, Yun Yao must leave. No matter what you do, this won't change. Right now, the situation on the continent is chaotic. The demon race's army is about to invade the south. The Demon King's scheme is about to succeed. The Central Plains will be plunged into misery and suffering. Yun Yao is the reincarnation of the ancient goddess of Nacre Light. She is the demon race's mortal enemy. Once the Demon King has enough power and trump cards, he will kill Yun Yao and do everything he can to kill her. In the ancient times, it was the goddess of Nacre Light who ended the demon race's glory and destroyed their plan to rule the world. Now that the demon race is finally powerful and prosperous, how can they repeat the same mistake? The Manor Head paused when he said this. He glanced at Ji Tianqing's expression before continuing, also, Yun Yao must constantly fuse with new Neptunian divine pearls to maintain her lifespan and soul. Otherwise, she will die. Even if she fuses with a second Neptunian divine pearl, her lifespan will only increase by 10 years. The other Neptunian divine pearls are not on the profound sky continent. If she wants to live, she must find more Neptunian divine pearls. If I don't take her away, she will definitely die. Have you thought about this? Chapter 1360. Ji Tianqing had naturally considered the issues that the master had raised, and this was not the first time he had considered them. In fact, he had already mentally prepared himself for the day that he would leave the profound sky continent. Once the chaos of the demons was resolved, he would head to the Shenwu continent to pursue a higher realm of martial arts and unravel the mystery of Kenshin's death. The master wanted to take Yun Yao away. This was an agreement that the master had made with Cloud Soul Palace when he had saved Yun Yao more than 20 years ago. Furthermore, if Yun Yao did not leave the profound sky continent, she would definitely die. Logically speaking, he had no reason to stop the master from taking Yun Yao away. Furthermore, with his strength and status, he did not have the right to stop the master's decision. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only accept this reality. However, his heart was filled with worry. How could he agree to this so easily? He looked at the master with a burning gaze and asked, May I ask, Master, where are you taking Yun Yao? The master had summoned him for an audience, and it seemed that he wanted to lay all his cards on the table. Thus, Lu Yin answered without hiding anything, We are leaving the profound sky continent and heading to an even vaster continent. Only there can warriors break through the shackles of the primordial spirit realm and have the chance to reach the deity realm. Furthermore, only there can Yun Yao find the third and fourth Neptunian divine orb and extend her life. When he heard this answer, Ji Tianqing's heart skipped a beat, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. Could the continent that the master is talking about be the Shenwu continent? The master looked at him deeply and nodded slightly. That's right, it's the Shenwu continent. It seems that you have already come into contact with the secrets of the Shenwu continent and know quite a bit? Ji Tianqing shook his head. I only know a little about the secrets of the Shenwu continent, so I don't know much about it. Since you were often not in the Sovereign King manor and disappeared for many years, you must have gone to the Shenwu continent, right? The master avoided answering this question, which could be considered a tacit admission. In a month at most, I will take Yun Yao and leave for the Shenwu continent. I have already made arrangements there. After Yun Yao goes there, she will receive the best treatment and environment. She will definitely be able to display her dazzling brilliance. You don't have to worry about her safety. She will grow up at the fastest speed under the care of a big shot. Speaking up to this point, the palace master glanced at him playfully and said meaningfully, you mustn't slack off. You must work harder in your cultivation so that you won't be left far behind by Yun Yao in the future. I'm afraid that it won't look good on you. After all, Yun Yao has inherited the inheritance of goddess Yaoguang. She was born extraordinary and will definitely recreate the glory of the goddess in the future. Hearing the mansion master's words, the last trace of worry in Ji Tianqing's heart finally dissipated. He silently thought to himself, fortunately, the manor head is taking Yao Yao to the Shenwu continent. Once the demon's chaos is resolved, I'll head there as well. We're only temporarily separated. Soon, I'll be able to go to the Shenwu continent to find her and reunite with her. As this thought flashed through his mind, he asked the mansion master, who is this big shot that you're talking about? Why is he taking care of Yun Yao? The mansion master immediately frowned and hesitated for a moment before answering, that big shot is the strongest person who stands at the peak of all living beings. Even I can only look up to him. As for why he's taking care of Yun Yao, it's because Yun Yao is the reincarnation of goddess Yaoguang. He was also the one who personally appointed Yun Yao to be his subordinate. When he heard the mansion master's words, Ji Tianqing was somewhat moved, and his heart was filled with shock. The strongest person who stands at the peak of all living beings? Could it be a martial saint or a martial god? That powerhouse specifically wants to take Yao Yao as his subordinate because Yao Yao is the reincarnation of goddess Yaoguang. Does this mean that 20 years ago, when the mansion master took action to save Yao Yao, this matter was already set in stone? Was this the plan of the mansion master and that powerhouse? When he understood this point, Ji Tianqing suddenly understood, and he thought to himself with complicated feelings, I never thought that this would be the truth. It seemed like a coincidence, but it was actually set in stone. Just as he was silently pondering this, the mansion master spoke again in a calm tone, Tianqing, this matter has been decided. I have no intention of separating you and Yun Yao, but I have a heavy responsibility to take care of, and I'm also thinking about Yun Yao's life. The two of you will only be separated for a short period of time. Once the storm calms down, I'll think of a way to send you to the Shenwu continent as well. Of course, I can only do my best, but I can't guarantee anything. After all, I'm just following orders, and I don't have the authority to decide who to bring to the Shenwu continent. Ji Tianqing nodded and bowed. Thank you, Lord Mansion Master, for your help. The Emperor is eternally grateful. As he spoke, he thought to himself, I never thought that the Mansion Master, the #1 powerhouse in the Tianxian continent, would be willing to serve someone else and work for that big shot. Truly, there is always someone better than you out there. I wonder just how powerful that big shot is and what kind of status he possesses. The matter regarding Yun Yao ended there, and the two men no longer discussed it further. The mansion master continued, Tianqing, I can see that your strength has grown rapidly over the past half a year. You must have had an astonishing fortuitous encounter, right? Ji Tianqing could see the concern in the mansion master's eyes, and it seemed as if the mansion master wanted to give him some pointers. Thus, Lu Yin gave a simple recount of his experiences and encounters over the past half a year. Of course, when it came to the Nine Heavens platform, he only talked about how he had attracted the divine lightning and how he had controlled it. When he had entered Xian Pin Door and encountered Jiu, he did not mention a single word about it to avoid any unnecessary trouble. Even though the mansion master was very knowledgeable and experienced, he still could not help but reveal a look of surprise when he heard Lu Yin's story. In the end, when Lu Yin told him about how the Hidden Gods sect and the Shao clan had been exterminated by the demons, the gratified look in the mansion master's eyes disappeared. The mansion master's expression became heavy, and a faint trace of hatred and killing intent flashed through his eyes. Damned demons. One day, I will make them pay with their blood. The mansion master growled in a low voice, and a frightening murderous intent burst out from his body. Ji Tianqing also felt the same, and he quickly said, "Mansion master, we still need to think about how to deal with the demons. The most important thing right now is to treat Shao Wendian, sect master Shui, and Emperor Yi as soon as possible. Their injuries are too serious." The mansion master looked at him faintly and said in a low voice, "They have had their divine bones removed, their divine blood drawn, and their meridian stripped. Their injuries are so serious, how can you save them?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a sincere tone, "I really can't do anything, so I would like to ask the mansion master to help treat." Before he could finish, the mansion master waved his hand and interrupted him. "Invite them out and let them stay in the imperial palace. I will personally treat their injuries." Chapter 1361. The mansion master's tone was complicated as he sighed emotionally. At that moment, Ji Tianqing's body shook violently. His eyes widened as he looked at the mansion master in disbelief. "The four of you? Reunite?" He never thought that the mansion master would say such a thing. He understood the mansion master's meaning almost instantly. That was why he was so shocked and felt incredulous. Could it be that the mansion master is? As this thought flashed through his mind, he became agitated. His blood flow and heartbeat sped up. "I see. I traveled all over the Tianxian continent and only found Kenshin's 3 in-name disciples, but I couldn't find Gu Daoxian. I didn't expect that the mansion master was Gu Daoxian, Kenshin's eldest disciple. No wonder Shui Ruoyu said that Gu Daoxian had disappeared for 1,000 years without any trace or news. No wonder the mansion master took good care of me after knowing that I was a descendant of Kenshin. Moreover, he knew everything about Kenshin. He personally told me about Guyi Shao Shui and asked me to find Kenshin's followers." At that moment, Ji Tianqing finally understood everything. All the doubts that had been lingering in his heart these few years were finally solved. After a long while, he came back to his senses and calmed down. At that moment, the mansion master nodded slightly at him and said calmly, "Tianqing, follow me." With that, the mansion master got up and left the main hall. He led him through a secret door in the corner of the main hall and into the depths of the imperial palace. The two of them walked along the dark passage for thousands of feet before entering a spacious and dark secret room. When they stepped through the door of the secret room, Ji Tianqing clearly felt that space and time were distorted. It was as if he had passed through an invisible bubble and entered another space. Without a doubt, the flow of time in this secret room was different from the outside world. 10 months ago, he had come to this secret room and cultivated in seclusion for a long time. The mansion master walked to the center of the secret room and waved his hand to shoot out a dazzling golden light into the wall. Suddenly, more than a dozen gemstone lamps lit up on the surrounding walls, emitting dazzling multicolored lights, illuminating the entire secret room. The black stone floor was engraved with mysterious and ancient patterns. It was the ancient divine array that could change the flow of time. The mansion lord waved his hand again, shooting out a dense ray of light. Immediately, 3 wide ice jade beds appeared in the secret room, lined up in a row on the ground. The manor lord turned to Ji Tianqing and said, "Tianqing, invite the 3 of them out." Ji Tianqing hurriedly opened the world in the sword and moved Shui Ruoyu, Shao Wendian, and Emperor Yi into the secret chamber. He placed them on 3 ice jade beds. The 3 of them were severely injured and had been unconscious the entire time. Among them, Shao Wendian's injuries were the most serious. Ren Huangye's injuries were second, and Shui Ruoyu's injuries were slightly lighter. The headmaster stared at the 3 people lying on the jade bed. He studied their appearances and sensed the aura of their souls. Reminiscence flashed across his eyes. 1,000 years passed by in the blink of an eye. The time the four of us spent together was very short, and we never gathered together to follow and serve the master. But we knew of each other's existence, and we all had the same beliefs and goals in our hearts. The mansion lord murmured in a complicated tone. There was a heavy sorrow in the depths of his eyes. Ever since Ji Tianqing met the mansion lord, he had always felt that the mansion lord was high and mighty, sacred and dignified. It was as if he had no emotions and was like a celestial being. However, at this moment, he realized that the mansion lord was not emotionless. It was just that he hid his emotions too deeply. If one was not close to him, it was impossible to have too much contact with him. Of course, one could not see the changes in his emotions. After a while, the mansion lord slowly raised his hands and used a secret technique to heal the injuries of Emperor Yi and the others. His hands formed a strange seal, and the secret technique he used was very mysterious and profound. Beams of brilliant golden light condensed into strange seals and entered the bodies of the three people. Ji Tianqing stood silently at the side, quietly watching the mansion lord cast the spell. However, he realized that he could not understand the trajectory of the mansion lord's spell. Shui Ruoyu has just reached the first level of the primordial soul realm, so there are still traces of her using the secret technique. However, the mansion lord's method of casting the spell is completely baffling to me. His strength is also as powerful as the deep sea, unfathomable. It seems that the mansion lord is not only in primordial soul realm powerhouse, but he has most likely reached the peak of the primordial soul realm. This thought appeared in Ji Tianqing's mind, and he was full of confidence in the mansion lord. He believed that with the mansion lord's powerful strength and methods, he would definitely be able to heal Emperor Yi and the others. Unknowingly, 5 days passed. The mansion lord continuously used the secret technique and persisted for 5 days and 5 nights without stopping. He used hundreds of thousands of seals one after another to heal the injuries of Emperor Yi and the others, using up a huge amount of his power. However, his expression remained calm, without the slightest hint of exhaustion. He had a calm and composed demeanor. It was as if his magic power was inexhaustible, and would never be exhausted. Finally, when the mansion lord cast the 990,000 seal, he slowly stopped and ended the spellcasting. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Emperor Yi and the others with a calm expression, waiting silently. Emperor Yi and the others were wrapped in a layer of hazy golden light. Their physical and spiritual injuries were rapidly recovering, and their life auras were becoming more and more majestic. In particular, Xiao Wentian's change was the greatest. His body had originally turned into a dried corpse, but now it was producing new blood. His skin, flesh, and blood were rapidly recovering. Ji Tianqing witnessed the changes in the three with his own eyes. He was secretly looking forward to it, and he was also shocked by the mansion lord's powerful methods. Very quickly, another 6 hours passed. The golden light that enveloped Shui Ruoyu gradually dissipated. She was the first to wake up, and she slowly opened her eyes. This place. Where am I? She looked around in a daze, sizing up the situation in the secret chamber. She used her arms to support her body and slowly sat up on the frost jade bed. She turned her head and saw Ji Tianqing and the mansion lord beside the bed. When she saw the faces of the two people clearly, she was immediately shocked, and her eyes were filled with shock. Little junior brother? And eldest. Eldest senior brother? Eldest senior brother. Is it really you? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? After 1,000 years, I can actually still see you. You. Why are you two together? Shui Ruoyu was very emotional. She stared at the mansion lord in disbelief, as if she was in a dream. The mansion lord looked at her with a smile and said in a gentle tone, "Little junior sister, how have you been?" Hearing the mansion lord's words, Shui Ruoyu could no longer control the excitement and emotions in her heart. Her eyes were suddenly covered with a layer of mist, and sparkling tears poured out. Eldest senior brother, it really is you. She held the edge of the bed with trembling hands and immediately wanted to get off the bed. Chapter 1362. After 1,000 years, Shui Ruoyu and Gu Daoxian were finally reunited. Both of them were filled with emotions. There were too many things in their hearts that they wanted to tell each other. Ji Tianqing stood to the side, silently listening to the two of them reminiscing about the past and talking about their past. After about 2 hours, Emperor Yi and Xiao Wentian woke up one after another. Their reactions were almost the same as Shui Ruoyu's. When they saw the mansion master, they were shocked and in disbelief. They were stunned for a long time before they reacted. They emotionally called out, "Eldest senior brother," and were about to get off the bed to bow to the mansion master. Although they had lived for more than 1,000 years and were grandmaster-level powerhouses, they were all white-haired and senile. In their hearts, other than their master, their biggest support was their eldest senior brother, Gu Daoxian. After all, Gu Daoxian was the first in-named disciple of Kenshin. He was also the most outstanding martial arts genius among the four of them. Back then, Gu Daoxian had taken good care of them and was the backbone of the three of them. He was just like the old saying, an elder brother is like a father. After 1,000 years, the four in-named disciples of Kenshin were finally reunited here. Of course, there was also Ji Tianqing, the successor of Kenshin. The 5 of them were all disciples of Kenshin. They had an unbreakable bond and relationship with each other. Everyone was very excited and gratified. They chatted for a long time, but there was still something to talk about. In the course of the conversation, Ji Tianqing spoke less and listened more. Thus, he gained a deeper understanding of the events from 1,000 years ago. Unknowingly, a night had passed. It was not until the next morning that everyone stopped chatting and began to talk about serious matters. The mansion master looked at Ji Tianqing and asked in a low voice, "Tianqing, you said before that the demon emperor sent the demon clan's powerhouses and the blood god to attack your 3 junior brothers and junior sisters and steal their divine bones, divine blood, and divine tendons. It could be a shocking conspiracy." Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a low voice, "That's right. 10 months ago, I talked to you about this in person. The demon emperor was carrying out a secret plan to resurrect the ancestor demon god. Only with the rebirth of the ancestor devil god could the devil clan truly regain their glory. They could once again take over the world and dominate the entire Tianxian continent. I'm almost certain that the reason why the devil emperor sent experts to steal the divine items of my 3 senior martial brothers and sisters is related to this plan." Shui Ruoyu also nodded in agreement and said, "Eldest senior brother, you should be very clear that the divine objects that Master gave us are all unique treasures on this continent and are comparable to divine artifacts. Once the Devil Emperor obtains our divine item, he will be able to cast a spell to create a fleshly body comparable to a divine artifact. Since Tianqing mentioned the matter of reviving the ancestral devil god, I boldly guessed that the ancestral devil god had not perished in the antiquity age and was able to survive until now. Only a shred of his soul was left. If the ancestral fiend god was reborn, without a corporeal body, his strength would be greatly reduced. However, if the Devil Emperor were to forge a divine body for it, it would be completely awakened and reborn. Its strength would be terrifyingly powerful. At that time, all the experts in the world would not be able to resist it. Even if we were to join forces, we would not be a match for the ancestral fiend god. Emperor Yi and Xiao Wentian had also heard from Ji Tianqing that the Devil Emperor wanted to revive the ancestral fiend god. Therefore, after listening to Ji Tianqing and Shui Ruoyu's analysis, the two of them nodded in agreement and revealed worried expressions. That damned ancient Devil Emperor. He is so sinister and despicable. He actually concocted such a shocking scheme. How despicable. The Devil Emperor has already obtained our divine bones, divine blood, and divine tendons. It's enough for him to forge a preliminary divine body. If the Devil Emperor obtains eldest senior brother's deity heart, he will be able to form a complete divine body. Then, his scheme will succeed. Shui Ruoyu nodded solemnly. She looked at the palace master and said, "Eldest senior brother, although the Devil Emperor has obtained our 3 divine items, he cannot forge a complete divine body. The final key lies in the deity heart in your body. Only with your deity heart can a true divine body be formed. Therefore, you must protect yourself no matter what. You must be careful. You must not let the devil emperor succeed. Ji Tianqing also reminded, now that the situation is very critical, the devil emperor will definitely use the divine bones, divine blood, and divine tendons to form a divine body for the ancestral fiend god. Soon, the devil race's army will invade the central plains. A storm of blood will descend. However, we still have a glimmer of hope. As long as we unite and think of a way to stop the devil race's attack, we still have a chance to turn the situation around. However, if Palace Master's deity heart is also snatched away, the ancestral fiend god will be able to obtain a complete divine body and recover his strength quickly. When that time comes, the profound sky continent will definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. Every race in the world will be powerless to resist and can only be slaughtered and enslaved by the devil race. At this point, the atmosphere in the secret chamber became particularly solemn. Everyone's mood was very gloomy. The palace master's gaze swept across everyone and said with a determined expression, "Everyone, don't worry. With the devil emperor's current strength, it's impossible for him to snatch away my deity heart. Moreover, I will do my best to stop the devil race's schemes. I will not let the central plains fall and the devil race dominate the world." When everyone heard the palace master's words, their hearts calmed down. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to ask, "Palace master, what plans do you have for the next step?" The palace master said with a solemn expression, "I will immediately give the order for all the princes in the imperial residence to return to their respective races and forces to resist the devil race's invasion. In addition, I will also send a few god-tier masters to the various battlefields to assist the various races in resisting the devil race's attack." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "That's good. I don't expect the god-tier masters and the princes to be able to stop the devil race's attack. I just hope that they can buy some time." The palace master looked at him with a deep gaze and said in a low voice, "These are all delaying tactics. They can't solve the fundamental problem. There is also another very important matter that is extremely urgent and needs to be completed as soon as possible." Ji Tianqing frowned in confusion and asked, "What is it, palace master?" The palace master said in a serious tone, "Tianqing, you are master's successor and also the devil emperor's nemesis. If the situation of the continent is desperate, I'm afraid you will be needed to turn the tide and expel the devil race. The 3 junior brothers and junior sisters are already seriously injured and weak. They won't be able to participate in the war for the next 10 years. I will also leave the central plains to complete that mission. Therefore, you are the hope of all of us." Ji Tianqing immediately felt the heavy pressure and said with some difficulty, "Palace master, you think too highly of me. I want to kill the devil emperor and eradicate the devil race in the world, returning the continent to its former glory. But with my current strength, I can't create a miracle, let alone turn the tide." The palace master looked at him with a determined gaze and nodded, "No, Tianqing, you can do it." Chapter 1363. Logically speaking, the prefecture lord was the strongest person in the Tianxian continent. In the face of the demon race's invasion and the continent's imminent collapse, the prefecture lord should have stepped forward and turned the tide. However, Ji Tianqing was very clear that the prefecture lord was not shirking his responsibility. Although he was the strongest person in the Tianxian continent, he was not a free person. He was also a subordinate of that mysterious person and worked for that person. A year was almost up, and the prefecture lord had to bring Yunyao out of the Tianxian continent and rush to the Shenwu continent. This was the agreement between the prefecture lord and Cloud Soul Palace, and it was also the plan of that person. It was the prefecture lord's mission. If he did not comply and angered that person who stood at the pinnacle of all life, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, at this critical juncture, the demon race's army was marching south, and the human race's defensive line was being pushed back. The central region was in imminent danger. Ji Tianqing could only sigh inwardly. Fate truly made fools of people, and fate was full of misfortune. The demon race's attack was simply too fast. When the prefecture lord saw that Lu Yin was silent, he did not say anything else and gave him time to consider and make a choice. Emperor Yi, Xiao Wendian, and Shui Ruoyu had already made their preparations and plans. The three of them looked at Ji Tianqing with concern and took turns to persuade him. Shui Ruoyu looked at him kindly and said earnestly, "Tianqing, there are only 5 of us here today, so let's not talk about saving the world or saving the common people. You are not a saint, and neither are we. No one is born with the mission of saving the human race. You can think about it carefully and answer after you've thought it through. No one has the right to force you. However, there is one thing you must know. Killing the ancient devil emperor and eradicating the demon race is also Master's wish." After Shui Ruoyu finished speaking, Emperor Yi said calmly, "Tianqing, we all know your nature. It is impossible for you to stay out of this and completely ignore this matter. You cannot watch the demon race invade the central region and wantonly slaughter our people without doing anything. We are almost crippled, and we cannot help you anymore. The only thing we can do is to impart to you the secret arts that we have learned in our lifetime so that you can grow as quickly as possible. As for whether you can kill the devil emperor in the future and end this war, no one knows. We can only do our best and leave the rest to fate. This way, even if I die in battle, I will have a clear conscience." Xiao Wendian was silent for a while before he finally said, "According to our estimation, the devil emperor has already recovered to the primordial spirit realm. Apart from that, there were also a few essence soul realm supremacies among the large number of blood gods he created. There was also an ancestral demon god with a half-step divine body who was about to be reborn. These were the strongest experts of the demon race. With your talent and combat ability, you will have a chance to kill the Nephilim emperor and the blood god and save the continent once you break through to the primordial spirit realm. Tianqing, you have to believe in the lifetime of the 4 of us. It will definitely increase your strength greatly." After he finished speaking, the mansion master finally spoke. He said to Ji Tianqing, "Tianqing, the 4 of us are proficient in different secret arts, but they were all imparted to us by our master. If the 4 of us impart our secret arts to you, you will have 20% of our master's strength when you reach the primordial spirit realm. Moreover, when you cultivate our master's sword Dao in the future, it will be twice the result with half the effort. It will be greatly beneficial. Think about it carefully. If you agree, we will start imparting as soon as possible. You will cultivate in seclusion in this secret chamber. I will use all the resources in the Monarch Mansion to maintain the operation of the formation in the secret chamber so that you can cultivate in seclusion here for about 2 years. When you come out of seclusion, only a little more than a month will have passed in the outside world. There should be enough time." The mansion master, Emperor Yi, and the other 3 had nothing more to say. After they finished speaking, they looked at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes, waiting for him to make a decision. Ji Tianqing's expression had been very calm. His eyes swept across the faces of the 4 people and suddenly revealed a trace of a smile. "Actually, I understand all the reasons you have said. Even if you didn't persuade me, I already had an answer in my heart. A long time ago, I swore that I would kill the demon emperor and eradicate the demon clan in the northern desert. The pain that the demon clan once inflicted on my family and friends, I will return it 10-fold, no, 100-fold. Thank you, senior brothers and senior sisters, for trusting me unconditionally and placing such high hopes in me. I agree. If it's convenient, let's start imparting as soon as possible." Seeing that Ji Tianqing had finally agreed, the mansion master, Emperor Yi, and the others breathed a sigh of relief and revealed gratified expressions. "Tianqing, we are proud of you. We are all Master's disciples and successors. Regardless of life or death, we will never bring shame to Master's name." After a while, everyone calmed down and began to impart their skills. Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged on the icy jade bed. He circulated his skills and adjusted his breathing for a moment, reaching a state of cultivation where his mind was clear. Shui Ruoyu took the lead and sat opposite Ji Tianqing. She waved her hands and performed a secret technique, forming a mysterious seal. She activated her majestic spiritual energy and condensed the 3 secret techniques that she had cultivated in her life into a ball of dazzling white light. Then, she slowly pushed out her palms and pressed the ball of dazzling spiritual energy on Ji Tianqing's forehead. Swoosh! The egg-sized ball of spiritual energy slowly entered Ji Tianqing's forehead and gradually entered his mind. After a full hour, the ball of white light stabilized and floated in his mind, temporarily accepted by him. After Shui Ruoyu finished imparting her skills, she looked as if she had been seriously ill. Her breathing was very weak, her face was pale, and her body was drenched in sweat. She stopped with difficulty and walked down the icy jade bed. She staggered to the corner of the secret room and circulated her skills to adjust her breathing. Then, Xiao Wentian took another step forward and sat down in front of Ji Tianqing. He also held his breath and concentrated on channeling his skills. He condensed the 2 secret techniques that he had studied in his life into a ball of spiritual energy and transferred it into Ji Tianqing's mind. His injuries were more serious, so the process of imparting his skills was very difficult and slow. It took a lot of time. After a full hour, he finally finished imparting his skills and slowly stopped. He was so tired that he almost collapsed on the ground. He had almost exhausted all his strength. With the help of the palace master, he walked to the corner of the secret room and circulated his skills to adjust his breathing. The third person to impart his skills to Ji Tianqing was naturally Emperor Yi. He also spent more than 2 hours to impart the 2 secret techniques that he had studied in his life to Ji Tianqing. At this point, there were already 3 balls of spiritual energy floating in Ji Tianqing's mind. With his current strength, cultivation level, and the strength of his spiritual energy, this was already the limit. If the palace master imparted his skills to him again, his mind and spiritual energy might not be able to withstand too much power. Accidents and dangers might occur. When the palace master discovered this situation, he let Ji Tianqing refine and absorb the 3 secret techniques first. After a while, he would impart his secret techniques to Ji Tianqing. In order not to disturb Ji Tianqing's cultivation, he quietly left the secret room with Emperor Yi, Xiao Wentian, and Shui Ruoyu. Chapter 1364. Although the mansion master had already treated Emperor Yi and the other 2's injuries, the 3 of them were no longer in critical condition. The 3 of them were fine now, and they could still use their arts to teach Ji Tianqing their ultimate techniques. However, their injuries were too severe, and it was impossible for them to recover in a short period of time. At the very least, they would need to recuperate for many years before they could recover a certain amount of combat power. It was basically impossible for them to recover to their peak strength. After all, their divine bones, divine blood, and divine tendons had been removed. They had already lost their most precious divine items. In the future, even if they recovered from their injuries, their strength would be greatly reduced. Even their martial arts aptitude would be greatly reduced. It would be very difficult for them to break through the shackles of martial arts and reach a higher realm. It was precisely because of this that they imparted their most powerful ultimate techniques to Ji Tianqing and did their best to help him. The secret chamber was dark and silent. Only Ji Tianqing was alone. He sat cross-legged on the ice jade bed and was concentrating on cultivating. There were too many treasures stored in his mind. It was enough to make any soul refinement cultivator go crazy with jealousy. In the middle was his divine soul golden sword. Above it was the blazing white heaven mending pearl. Below it was the quaint Big Dipper god fire cauldron. 7 dazzling white divine soul magic swords were suspended in a circle around him. In addition, there were 3 blazing white balls of divine soul light that floated quietly around him. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and decided to go from easy to difficult. He would first refine Xiao Wentian and Emperor Ye's divine soul light. Lastly, he would refine Shui Ruoyu's divine soul light. After all, Shui Ruoyu was the strongest among the 3 of them. She had already broken through to the primordial soul realm. He would first refine Xiao Wentian's divine soul light. When he released his divine soul power and came into contact with that ball of divine soul light, he immediately felt a majestic and mighty aura. There was also an endless amount of information pouring in like a torrential flood, pouring into his divine soul. Among the complex and profound information, there were two ultimate techniques recorded. Both of them were top-notch and powerful secret techniques. Although there were only two secret techniques, they were both passed down from Kenshin. Naturally, they had been tempered thousands of times and were incomparably perfect techniques. Ji Tianqing focused his mind and abandoned all distracting thoughts. He focused on refining the ball of white light and receiving the information within. After 5 whole days, he finally finished absorbing all the information in the ball of light and roughly understood the two absolute arts that Xiao Wendian had imparted to him. The first move was the star-shattering fist. Without a doubt, this was a powerful and unfathomable offensive spell. This fist technique had already surpassed the category of martial skills. It could be called a divine skill. It could draw upon the power of heaven and earth and release an incomparably terrifying power. If one cultivated it to the extreme and reached an incomparably profound level, one punch could shatter the stars in outer space. Ji Tianqing repeatedly studied the star-breaking fist's incantation, comprehending its profound meaning and essence. Gradually, he grasped the knack of it. As his understanding of the star-shattering fist deepened, he became more and more shocked and expectant. As expected of the ultimate technique taught by Kenshin. The concept of the fist technique, the way it works, the way it exerts force, the way it attacks, the way it changes, and so on are all refreshing. Not only is Kenshin the god of the sword, but his understanding and attainment of the fist technique is also absolutely superb. With Xiao Wendian's strength, if he uses the star-shattering fist with all his strength, he can only shatter 200 miles of mountains and rivers. Only when one reaches Kenshin's level can he shatter the stars in outer space with a single punch. Just as this thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind, the ball of white light twisted a few times and condensed into a white figure. This small figure was condensed from Xiao Wendian's spiritual consciousness. Its appearance was exactly the same as his. He was in Ji Tianqing's mind and looked at the spiritual golden sword with a smile on his face. He said, "Tianqing, don't underestimate this star-shattering fist. This is one of my most powerful ultimate techniques. Since Master imparted this star-shattering fist to me 1,000 years ago, I have studied it for 1,000 years. Unfortunately, I have not reached the primordial spirit realm and can only use 20% of the star-shattering fist's power. In the future, when you pass the heavenly tribulation and reach the martial sage or martial god realm, when you use the star-shattering fist again, you will definitely be able to shatter the stars with a single punch." Ji Tianqing knew that this Xiao Wendian was just a spiritual consciousness shadow. The reason why he could communicate with his spiritual consciousness was to help him quickly comprehend the ultimate technique. He quickly replied, "Senior brother Xiao, don't worry. I will definitely focus on comprehending this ultimate technique and bring it to greater heights." Xiao Wendian nodded his head in satisfaction and said with a smile, "In that case, I will pass on the essence and tricks of the star-shattering fist to you. Listen carefully." After that, he truthfully told Ji Tianqing the key tricks and essence of the star-shattering fist. At the same time, he also told Xiao Wendian about his experience and understanding of the star-shattering fist in full detail. Originally, Ji Tianqing would have needed to spend a few years to explore and comprehend all these. Now that Xiao Wendian had directly imparted it to him, he could quickly comprehend and master it. A month later, he had completely mastered the star-shattering fist's skill and essence. He had also memorized it in his spiritual consciousness and would never forget it. Next, he started to comprehend the second ultimate technique. The second ultimate technique that Xiao Wendian imparted to him was called, "Ask the Heavens with a Horizontal Sword." This was an unfathomable sword technique that Kenshin had imparted to Xiao Wendian. Xiao Wendian had been cultivating this sword technique for thousands of years and had cultivated it to an extremely high level. All along, Xiao Wendian had treated this sword technique as his trump card. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would definitely not use it. Previously, when the Demon Clan experts had sneaked into the Xiao clan and besieged him at the Pillar of Heaven's mountains, he had used this sword technique to kill 2 Demon Clan experts and force the Blood God, who had attacked him, to retreat. The remaining power of the sword technique had shattered the entire pillar of heaven's mountains and turned it into ruins for a few hundred miles. Taking advantage of that opportunity, he had taken out the ancient black metal piece and entered the Dharma treasure space. He had only managed to escape by hiding a few dozen miles deep underground. Ji Tianqing spent a few days memorizing the skill of "ask the heavens with a horizontal sword." He had reached a level where he could recite it backwards. Then, under the explanation and teaching of the White Dwarf, he gradually comprehended the essence of this sword technique and used a month to master it. 2 months later, he had refined Shao Wentian's spiritual light and truly mastered the two ultimate techniques, the star-shattering fist and ask the heavens with a horizontal sword. He did not stop cultivating and continued to refine Ren Huangye's spiritual light. The two ultimate techniques that Ren Huangye had imparted to him were also imparted by Kenshin. Moreover, Ren Huangye had added in his experience and comprehension of 1,000 years of cultivation. The first ultimate technique was called the heaven-capturing palm. The effect and power of this secret technique could be seen from its name. As long as Ji Tianqing had mastered the heaven-capturing palm, he would be able to unleash a powerful capturing technique that could easily deal with powerful enemies and capture objects from a distance. Moreover, the heaven-capturing palm also contained thousands of changes and magical uses. It had incredible effects. Chapter 1365. While Ji Tianqing was comprehending the heaven-capturing palm, Emperor Ye's ball of light condensed into an illusory figure and showed him the right path. Although this ultimate technique sounded simple, there were too many mysteries and changes contained within it. Even with the guidance of Emperor Ye's spiritual light, Ji Tianqing spent more than 20 days to completely comprehend and master the heaven-capturing palm. Next, he began to comprehend the second ultimate technique. Boundless Soul Destruction / It was Ji Tianqing's first time coming into contact with a secret technique with such a name, so he was still a little confused. After the guidance of Emperor Ye's spiritual light, he realized the uniqueness of this secret technique. This was an offensive secret technique that condensed the power of heaven and earth, magic power, and spiritual strength. It could be released with any weapon, such as a saber, a spear, a sword, a halberd, and so on. Of course, it could also be performed barehanded without using any weapons. This secret technique was specifically targeted at the spiritual strength. It was very powerful, and it was invisible. Its greatest characteristic was that it could be used at will. It could be used at any time, under any circumstances, and under any circumstances. It was impossible for the opponent to guard against it. If a primordial soul realm powerhouse used this boundless soul destruction / he could kill the enemy from thousands of miles away without making a sound. As expected, this is a special ultimate technique. It's most suitable for sneak attacks, assassinations, and desperate counterattacks. Ji Tianqing was very interested in this secret technique and was full of anticipation. Under Emperor Ye's guidance, he focused on comprehending and cultivating. A month later, he completely comprehended the boundless soul destruction / and successfully mastered this ultimate technique. Ren Huangye's ball of spiritual light also disappeared. He had refined the two ultimate techniques. Only a ball of white spiritual light was left in his mind. It belonged to Shui Ruoyu. When he circulated his energy to refine the ball of spiritual light and received the information within, he realized that the two ultimate techniques that Shui Ruoyu imparted to him were also extraordinary. The first ultimate technique was called Divine Concealment Step. This was a mysterious and strange step technique that Kenshin had created 1,000 years ago. After mastering this step technique, one could move dozens of miles with a single step. One could move freely between heaven and earth at a speed as fast as teleportation. Regardless of whether it was used for traveling, fighting, escaping, or chasing, this was a top-notch footwork. More importantly, by using the Divine Concealment Step, one could achieve the effect of invisibility and conceal one's aura. Only when one's strength was a few levels higher and was close to him would he be in danger of being exposed. Otherwise, almost no one would be able to see through the Divine Concealment Steps. Back when Venerable Bloodlust had led the Devil Race's experts to attack the Hidden God sect, Shui Ruoyu had been unable to defeat venerable bloodlust. After her god bone was removed, she was about to be killed. However, she had relied on the divine concealment step to evade the search and pursuit of the venerable bloodlust and survive in the end. When Ji Tianqing understood all of this, he felt that the spirit concealment step was extremely mysterious and powerful. It was simply too practical. It took him more than a month to comprehend the essence of the divine concealment step and successfully master this ultimate technique. The second technique that Shui Ruoyu taught him was also a sword technique. The sea was cold. This sword technique was taught to her by Kenshin back then, and it had a deeper meaning. It was a late autumn night. A crescent moon hung high in the sky, and bits and pieces of stars shone with cold light. The night wind was cold, and Shui Ruoyu, who was still a gentle girl, stood alone by the autumn lake, looking at the surface of the lake in deep thought. Her gaze and mood were like the lake water on an autumn night, cold but calm. The hatred of her parents being killed and the tragic scene of her entire clan being annihilated still lingered in her mind, and she could not get rid of it. Although she was weak, there was hatred in her heart, and she had accumulated a monstrous rage. She only wanted to kill all of her enemies and avenge her parents. Just as her thoughts were melancholy and the knot in her heart could not be undone, a handsome, and elegant white-robed figure silently came to her side. The person who came was Kenshin, the man that she had admired her entire life, who was like a god. Kenshin's body was as straight as a sword, and he expressionlessly stood by the lake. His eyes were deep as he looked at the surface of the lake, and he said a few words with an indifferent tone. The 7 emotions and 6 desires, love, hate, and infatuation can also make people work hard and cultivate. However, this is an evil path, and it cannot be maintained for long. Otherwise, the martial arts foundation will be destroyed, and one will go berserk. Only those who are calm and wise can comprehend the mysteries of heaven and reach the peak of martial arts. Shui Ruoyu turned around and looked at Kenshin, and asked with confusion and bewilderment, "Your Honor, I understand what you mean, but I can't let go of my hatred, and I will never forget those tragic scenes." Kenshin was silent for a moment, and his deep eyes revealed a trace of radiance. He said calmly, "You can't forget your hatred, but you can't lose your mind because of your hatred. Then why don't you try, turn your hatred into sword intent, and cut it all away, just like this." As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and a 3 feet long resplendent sword light condensed on his fingertips, and he slashed at the lake in front of him. Swoosh! The dazzling sword light cut through the night sky, and it actually bloomed with a brilliance that was even more resplendent than the moon. At that moment, half of the night sky was illuminated, and it was as bright as day. The sword light slashed into the calm lake, and it did not make a loud sound, nor did it cause huge waves. However, the huge lake with a radius of 100 miles instantly froze into ice. Moreover, a crack that was dozens of miles long was cut in the middle of the frozen lake, and it was as deep as an abyss, and it was thousands of feet deep. Shui Ruoyu was shocked, and she was full of admiration for Kenshin's superb swordsmanship. At the same time, she also understood Kenshin's intention, and she remembered that sword move in her heart, and would never forget it. When she came back to her senses, Kenshin had already turned around and left the lake. She stared at Kenshin's back and asked with bright eyes, "Your Honor, does this sword move have a name?" Kenshin's footsteps paused for a moment, and he left without looking back. His voice, which was as calm as water but deep and low, drifted over with the night wind. Cold of the azure sea. Since that autumn night, Shui Ruoyu had comprehended a new ultimate sword technique. It was also from then on that she understood that Kenshin, who looked cold and sacred, would also use his own way to care for others. Moreover, Kenshin was also a person with a story. However, those who were qualified to listen to his story were probably not born yet, or were not in this world. Shui Ruoyu's consciousness phantom told Ji Tianqing this story when she imparted the sword move to him. Ji Tianqing was somewhat moved, and he also understood Shui Ruoyu's intention, and why she wanted to impart this sword move. He spent 1.5 months to comprehend this sword move, and he finally succeeded in mastering it. So far, he had refined 3 balls of divine soul light, and also mastered 6 kinds of secret techniques, and his combat strength had imperceptibly increased by a lot. He had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret room for half a year, and only 18 days had passed in the outside world. After this half a year of bitter seclusion, his strength had increased greatly, and he was about to reach the 8th level of the soul refinement realm. He took this opportunity to cultivate the sword soul Dao, and quickly increased his strength. Chapter 1366. After reaching the 8th tier of the spirit refinement realm, Ji Tianqing's combat strength had increased by several times. His swordsmanship and skills had improved tremendously, and the power of the divine thunder sword realm had also become more powerful. In particular, the 6 ultimate techniques that Emperor Yi, Xiao Wendian, and Shui Ruoyu had taught him had allowed his combat strength to improve by leaps and bounds. Although he had not reached the primordial soul realm yet, he was stronger than in primordial soul realm powerhouse. He temporarily ended his cultivation and ordered the guards outside the secret chamber to report the news to the palace lord. 4 hours later, the palace lord entered the secret chamber alone and came before him. Tianqing, you're done with your closed-door cultivation. You've already refined and mastered the ultimate techniques that the 3 junior brothers and junior sisters taught you? The palace lord looked at him with a burning gaze and asked expectantly. Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. After half a year of comprehension and cultivation, I've already mastered them. Although I haven't tried out the power of those ultimate techniques, they'll definitely benefit me for the rest of my life." The mansion lord revealed a gratified expression and nodded slightly. "That's great. Your innate talent and comprehension ability have far exceeded my expectations. No wonder junior sister praised you for your outstanding talent, even surpassing master back then." The palace lord revealed a rare kind smile, and his tone was full of praise. Ever since Ji Tianqing had known the palace lord, this was the first time he had seen him smile, and the first time he had received praise and appreciation from him. "You flatter me, palace lord," Ji Tianqing smiled and said humbly. The palace lord waved his hand and said seriously, "Time is of the essence. The situation on the mainland is developing in the direction that you predicted, and the situation is getting worse. I don't have much time left, so let's begin now." After saying that, he waved his palms with a serious expression and activated his lifetime's worth of skills to perform a mysterious and powerful spell. Endless magic power gathered in his body, surging endlessly like a torrential river, and emitting a dull sound of thunder. His entire body lit up with a brilliant golden light, forming a translucent light shield. Furthermore, a golden shadow that was several meters tall appeared behind him. Inside the golden shadow was a golden giant that was 80 feet tall. He wore golden armor and had a dignified face. His aura was sacred and mighty, just like a god. The most peculiar thing was that the 80 feet tall golden armored giant had 2 heads and 6 arms, just like the gods of ancient legends. In the palm of each arm, there was a different magic treasure. There was a dazzling golden sword, a dark golden spear, a broad-backed dragon-headed saber, a treasured furnace, a magic disc, and so on. Ji Tianqing immediately understood after seeing the appearance of the golden armored giant. That was the Manor Lord's primordial spirit Dharma idol, the legendary Zhang 8 golden body. When cultivated to the peak, one could grow 3 heads and 6 arms, possessing great divine abilities that could pierce through the heavens and the earth. So this is the Manor Lord's Yuanshan Dharma idol. Compared to a soul refinement realm cultivator's divine soul, it is at least 10 times stronger. I wonder what kind of Dharma power I will condense when I reach the primordial soul realm? Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with shock and envy. He could not help but let his imagination run wild. At that moment, a dark golden ball of light condensed in the Manor Lord's palms and was spinning. The ball of golden light was as big as an egg. It contained a huge amount of information, including the ultimate techniques and cultivation experience that the Manor Lord had imparted. The Manor Lord slowly pushed Ji Tianqing with his palms and pressed the ball of golden light against his forehead. He said with a serious expression, "Tianqing, I will be leaving with Yunyao tomorrow. This is all that I can help you with. Here are the 3 ultimate techniques that I have cultivated throughout my life. They are all primordial soul ultimate techniques that were imparted to me by my master. You must study them diligently and master them as soon as possible. Only when you reach the primordial soul realm in the future can you look down on everyone. As his voice fell, the ball of dark golden light gradually entered Ji Tianqing's mind. Originally, Ji Tianqing had wanted to ask the Manor Lord a few questions. However, when the ball of dark golden light entered his mind, his body shook violently. He looked like he was in pain. His mind was about to burst open. After all, this ball of golden light was condensed from the consciousness of an primordial soul powerhouse. It was too powerful, and the information it contained was too vast. If it were an ordinary soul-tempering powerhouse, he would definitely not be able to withstand the power of this ball of golden light. His soul would definitely be damaged. Ji Tianqing did not dare to let his guard down. He hurriedly held his breath and concentrated on circulating his dermic powers. He used his soul strength to carefully receive the ball of golden light. He exerted all of his soul power, and it took him a full 6 hours to settle the golden ball of light in his mind. At that moment, the Manor Lord had already left quietly. Ji Tianqing circulated his dermic powers and regulated his breathing for a while. Then, he began to refine the ball of golden light and receive the ultimate techniques within. Only then did he realize that there were not only 3 ultimate techniques in the ball of golden light, but there was also an extremely vast amount of dermic powers. As long as he could refine that vast amount of dermic powers, he would be able to save a few years of tough cultivation and reach the half-step primordial soul realm quickly. He might even be able to break through to the primordial soul realm. Without a doubt, this was a huge gift from the Manor Lord. Ji Tianqing understood the significance of this gift and was extremely grateful to the Manor Lord. He also secretly made up his mind to master the 3 ultimate techniques imparted by the Manor Lord so that he would not let down the Manor Lord's efforts. Unknowingly, 20 days passed. After 20 days of comprehension and cultivation, Ji Tianqing received the information in the ball of golden light. Only then did he know that the 3 ultimate techniques imparted by the Manor Lord were indeed top-notch primordial soul realm secret techniques. The first ultimate technique was called Meteor Fire Shower. It was a secret technique with extremely terrifying lethality. When an primordial soul powerhouse executed this technique, he could summon endless heavenly fire that would pour down like a torrential flood, drowning an area of thousands of miles. Wherever the torrential fire rain covered, it would turn into a boundless sea of fire in the blink of an eye. All living creatures would turn into ashes and even the mountains and rivers would turn into lava. When this secret technique was cultivated to a high level, it could even summon meteors from outer space that would crash down like meteors and raze thousands of miles of mountains and rivers to the ground. It was said that when a martial sage executed this technique, he could summon meteors from outer space that were so powerful that they could destroy the heavens and earth. Ji Tianqing was looking forward to this ultimate technique. After studying it seriously for a long time, he decided to take the initiative to cultivate it. Although this ultimate technique was an primordial soul realm technique, given his strength and talent, he could immediately comprehend it and cultivate it. Furthermore, if he were to deal with the demon race in the future, he could use this ultimate technique with terrifying lethality. Together with the heavenly dipper god fire cauldron, he would definitely be able to deal a heavy blow to the demon race army. In order to comprehend and master this ultimate skill, he focused on cultivating it for 5 months before he succeeded in cultivating it. The effort and perseverance that he had put in was something that outsiders could not see or imagine. However, once he mastered this secret technique, he would possess an even more terrifying combat strength that everyone would be able to witness. Chapter 1367. The second technique that the Mansion Master taught him was a true divine technique. The name of this technique was the Heaven and Earth Dharma Body. 1,000 years ago, Kenshin taught this secret technique to Gu Daoxian. He had always remembered it in his heart and engraved it in the depths of his soul. When he broke through to the primordial soul realm, he cultivated this secret technique with all his might. Now, he had already mastered it. It was also this secret technique that allowed him to possess an almost immortal body and become the #1 expert in the Tian-Xian continent. 800 years ago, Gu Daoxian had just inherited the position of Mansion Master. He was not famous and kept a low profile. At that time, all the experts on the continent thought that the Emperor Long Xuanquan was the strongest, followed by the Golden Dragon Emperor of the Water Clan and the Heavenly Demon Emperor of the Demon Clan. Until one day, in a secret realm in the eastern sea's returning ruins, Gu Daoxian and Long Xuanquan met. No one knew why the two of them were fighting, or what the process of the fight was like. However, according to the news circulating in the outside world, the two of them had only exchanged 2 moves before the victor was decided. It was said that the Imperial Emperor Long Xuanquan had attacked first and used a powerful secret technique. Gu Daoxian did not dodge and used his heaven and earth Dharma body to take it. His body was not injured at all. However, he used a secret technique to push the Emperor Long Xuanquan back 10 miles and destroy the entire secret realm. Long Xuanquan knew that he was no match for Gu Daoxian. He bowed and admitted defeat on the spot and retreated with a sad expression. At that time, only one person witnessed the battle between the strongest experts on the continent. After that, it was this person who spread the news and made this matter one of the legends of the Tian-Xian continent. This person was the leader of the Eastern Sea's Water Clan, the Golden Dragon Emperor. From then on, the name of the Mansion Master was known by all the experts in the world. He was recognized as the #1 expert on the continent. Now that 800 years had passed, there were many experts on the Tian-Xian continent, but no one dared to question his title as the #1 expert. The Mansion Master's strength was also many times stronger than before. He had become more unpredictable, like an immortal. Now, the Mansion Master taught the secret technique of the Heaven and Earth Dharma body to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing had heard of that legend long ago. He only knew that the Mansion Master was the #1 expert on the continent. However, he did not know why the Mansion Master was able to resist the Imperial Emperor's secret technique and remain unscathed. When he understood the terrifying power of the Heaven and Earth Dharma body, he was suddenly enlightened and enlightened. The effect of this secret technique was to cultivate one's physical body into a Dharma body. What is Dharmakaya? The Dharmakaya was a Dharmakaya that could accommodate all the Dharmakaya in the world. Walking, sitting, lying, and every movement could draw upon the power of heaven and earth. He could control the power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, and even his breathing could devour the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, thus maintaining his power to never run out. The speed at which the body aged would also become extremely slow. Therefore, primordial soul experts who could cultivate Dharmakaya were all immortal experts. Regardless of whether it was thousands or tens of thousands of years, the body would not age and die. Of course, this was only the basic function of the avatar. There were many kinds of Dharmakaya cultivation methods in the world. In ancient times, the experts of various clans all had their own secret methods to cultivate various kinds of Dharmakaya. For example, the fiery spirit Dharma body, the lunar black water Dharma body, the celestial gunmetal Dharma body, the green wood Dharma body, and so on. The Heaven and Earth Dharma body taught by the Mansion Master was the most advanced and powerful among all the Dharmakaya secret techniques. It was a god-level cultivation method. Other than the effect of immortality, it also had an almost invincible defense. As long as Ji Tianqing cultivated the Heaven and Earth Dharma body, even if he had just reached the primordial soul realm, he would be able to control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within a radius of 1,000 miles and devour and use it at any time. When a strong enemy attacked, he could use the Heaven and Earth Dharma body and merge himself with heaven and earth within 1,000 miles. No matter how strong the enemy's attack was, it would be absorbed and neutralized by heaven and earth within 1,000 miles, and he would be unscathed. Of course, if he could reach the level of the Mansion Master, he would be able to control heaven and earth within a radius of 10,000 miles, and his defense would be even more terrifying. All in all, this Heaven and Earth Dharma body was the strongest defensive trump card for Ji Tianqing. It's a pity that this is a god-level cultivation method. I can only start cultivating it after I break through to the primordial soul realm, condense my primordial soul, and develop divine consciousness. After comprehending the heaven and earth Dharma body, Ji Tianqing sighed regretfully in his heart. Currently, he was unable to cultivate this technique. He could only engrave the cultivation method of the heaven and earth Dharma body in his mind and imprint it in his spirit. As for the third technique imparted by the Mansion Master, it was a god-level cultivation method that was also passed down from Kenshin. This technique's scientific name was the Real Self Dharma form. As the name suggested, this technique was a secret technique to condense the primordial soul Dharma form. When a strong fighter broke through to the primordial soul realm, his spirit would evolve into a primordial soul and develop divine consciousness. Just like Shui Ruoyu now, she only had the strength of a first-tier primordial soul realm, but her body only had the primordial soul and divine consciousness. If she wanted to increase her strength and possess more powerful supernatural powers, she had to condense the primordial soul Dharma form. The primordial soul Dharma form was similar to the spirit Dharma eye of a strong fighter in the soul-tempering realm, but it was more powerful and had more mysterious effects. For a strong fighter like the Mansion Master, his primordial soul Dharma form could leave his body and roam the heavens and earth, traversing the entire Tianxian continent. If the main body and the primordial soul Dharma form were separated, the primordial soul Dharma form would be equivalent to a clone that possessed the same strength as the main body. If the two were combined into one, their combat power would increase by at least 2 times during a battle. Of course, the primordial soul Dharma form condensed would be different due to the different cultivation methods practiced by primordial soul elite warriors. In the ancient times, there were many primordial soul elite warriors in the Tianxian continent. Thus, different kinds of Dharma forms were born. Some primordial soul elite warriors condensed the golden dragon Dharma form, which possessed boundless strength. It could summon the wind and rain, and fight against thunder and lightning. Some people condensed the heavenly dog Dharma form, which could swallow the essence of the moon and stars. There were also people who condensed the primordial giant beast Dharma form, the 5 elemental spirit Dharma form, the heavenly evil poison Dharma form, the 1,000-armed giant Dharma form, and so on. Ji Tianqing did not know much about the primordial soul Dharma form, nor did he have the time to look up the relevant information. However, the Mansion Master had left behind a shadow of his divine consciousness in the golden ball of light. It patiently and carefully explained the information about the primordial soul Dharma form. Now, Ji Tianqing knew that the primordial soul Dharma form condensed by the Mansion Master was called the 8-armed deity Dharma form. Its grade and power far surpassed all the Dharma forms in the world. The reason why the Mansion Master could condense the highest grade and most powerful 8-armed deity Dharma form was because he had mastered the lost art, True Self Dharma form. Tianqing, the True Self Dharma form is a god-level lost art imparted by teacher. If you can concentrate on cultivating it, you will benefit from it for the rest of your life. This lost art will only teach you how to see your true self and identify your true self. It will also teach you the method and shortcut to condensing the primordial soul Dharma form. However, what kind of primordial soul Dharma form you can condense in the end is determined by your talent, potential, and true self. Because of this, this lost art is called the True Self Dharma form. I hope that when I see you again, you have already broken through the primordial soul realm and condensed your own primordial soul Dharma form. Chapter 1368. Ji Tianqing had only mastered one of the 3 moves that the Mansion Master had imparted to him. He would only be able to cultivate the heaven and earth Dharma body and true self Dharma characteristic when he broke through to the essence soul realm. He memorized the Dharma spells and experiences related to these 2 moves. Then, he began to refine the divine consciousness light ball that the Mansion Master had given him. There was only a vast amount of dharmic power left in this pure and flawless golden divine light, enough to destroy the world. If he were to cultivate in seclusion, he would need at least 2 to 3 years to accumulate such a vast amount of dharmic power. Now, the Mansion Master had directly imparted it to him. He only needed to focus on refining this golden light ball and he would be able to obtain the strongest and purest dharmic power to increase his strength at the fastest speed. As time passed, the golden light ball slowly shrank in size while his strength continued to increase. 1 month, 3 months, 5 months. 10 months passed quickly. When Ji Tianqing finished refining the golden light ball, it was already 10 months later. He used a full 10 months to absorb all the dermic power that the mansion master had given him. There was no doubt that his strength had skyrocketed and reached the 9th level of the spirit refinement realm. He had condensed the 9th spirit Dharma sword. His spirit and dermic power were even more powerful, and his martial Tao foundation was even more solid. No one knew exactly how formidable his combat strength was after reaching the 9th level of the soul refinement realm and mastering 7 secret techniques. But there was one thing that was certain. He only needed one move to kill a half-step essence soul realm expert instantly. It was a true instant kill, with both body and soul destroyed. Ji Tianqing stopped cultivating for the time being. He sat in the secret chamber in silence, pondering silently. So far, I have been cultivating in seclusion in this secret chamber for 22 months, and my strength has reached the 9th level of the spirit refinement realm. Back then, the mansion master said that he would use all the resources of the imperial residence to maintain the operation of the secret chamber's array and let me cultivate here for 2 years. There are only 2 months left before the 2-year deadline. I can't waste time, and I can't let down the mansion master's efforts. Thinking of this, he decided not to come out of seclusion for the time being and continue cultivating in seclusion for 2 more months. Although I've already mastered the 7 ultimate secret arts, these are the ultimate skills that my senior martial brothers and senior martial sisters taught me. These secret techniques are only my trump cards. The Tao of Sword Soul is the foundation of my martial path. I can't let it go to waste. Therefore, he continued to cultivate the way of the sword soul, nurturing the divine soul magic sword, perfecting the divine lightning sword domain, and increasing its power. In a short period of time, if one's strength increased too quickly, it would often lead to an unstable foundation. As his strength grew stronger, the weakness of his unstable foundation would become more and more obvious. In the end, it would limit the progress of his strength and stop him from moving forward. He was very clear about this point, so he paid great attention to the consolidation of his martial arts foundation. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed. The 2-year deadline set by the Manor Lord had finally come to an end. The mysterious formation in the secret chamber gradually ran out of power and stopped operating. The mysterious power that filled the secret chamber also quickly dissipated. The invisible space-time distortion also dissipated in a short time. Ji Tianqing could clearly sense that the secret chamber with miraculous effects had become dull and ordinary in only 10 breaths. It's finally time. This closed-door cultivation is the longest I've ever done in my life. It's been 2 years. But it's also the fastest increase in my strength and the biggest change I've ever experienced. I've been in closed-door cultivation in the secret chamber for 2 years, but only 2.5 months have passed in the outside world. I wonder what the situation in the Tianxian continent is like now. These thoughts flashed across Ji Tianqing's mind. He ended his closed-door cultivation and slowly opened his eyes. On the surface, he didn't seem to have changed much. But in reality, his aura was already as deep as the sea. It was very hidden and reserved. Only primordial soul realm experts could sense that within his body, there was a powerful dermic power that could destroy the heavens and earth. In the eyes of ordinary martial artists, he was like an ordinary person who didn't cultivate. However, his pitch-black eyes were even more profound and vast. They were like an abyss that could devour people's hearts, and also as vast and boundless as the starry sky. Limitless possibilities were hidden in his body. Ji Tianqing changed into a white robe with stars and clouds. He put on a simple 7-star jade crown and tied his waist-length hair into a bun. He put his hands behind his back and walked out of the imperial palace with steady steps. He stood outside the main hall. The guards on both sides of the door were obviously stunned when they saw him. Then, they hurriedly bowed to greet him. "Greetings, Prince Tianqing." "Prince Tianqing, there's a letter for you here." Ji Tianqing turned to look at the guard on the left when he heard this. He reached out to take the letter from the other party. The letter was slightly thick. On the envelope made of dark gold rice paper, there were white cloud patterns engraved on it. This was the exclusive envelope of Cloud Spirit Palace. Ji Tianqing immediately understood that this must be a letter from Yunyao. Thus, he accepted the letter and stepped into the sky. He flew 10 miles with each step and quickly left the imperial palace. The two guards watched his back as he left. It was a long time before they came back to their senses. Both of them could feel that Ji Tianqing's aura had undergone a mysterious change. It made them feel reverence from the bottom of their hearts. However, that aura was not fierce, nor was it heavy or oppressive. Instead, it had an indescribable sense of mystery. With the strength and vision of the two guards, they could not explain it. Half an hour later, Ji Tianqing flew back to Tianqing Palace. It had already been a year since he returned to the Sky Air Palace. However, there were always guards guarding the palace. The maids and odd job workers were in charge of cleaning. All the rooms and courtyards were clean and tidy. He returned to the study and sat by the bright window. Only then did he take out the envelope, take out the letter, and read it carefully. The letter was 8 pages long. It was filled with beautiful and clear small words. It was Yunyao's handwriting. Tianqing's husband, Jean Sinan. When you received this letter, I had already left with the mansion master. After I returned to Cloud Soul Palace, I argued with my father and mother over this matter for a long time. However, in the end, I could only accept my fate and follow the agreement between Cloud Soul Palace and the mansion master to leave Tianxian continent. Husband, I'm sorry. It was my fate that caused our separation. After I left, I could no longer accompany you. I could not help you resolve your problems and fight against the invasion of the demon race. However, this was not my intention. From the day we became husband and wife, you and I were destined to be together forever. We live in the same bed and die in the same cave. Tianxian continent has already reached its most critical juncture. The human race's territory is in imminent danger. You must be careful. When things are impossible, you must not try to be a hero to avoid regret. If anything happens to you, I don't want to live alone. Before I left, I went to the imperial palace to see the mansion master. I also went to the secret room to see you. At that time, you were at a critical juncture in your cultivation. Your expression was painful, your face was pale, and your entire body was drenched in sweat. I know that you are omnipotent and will never be defeated. No matter how great the pain, you can endure it. No matter how dangerous the situation, you can turn it into safety. I also believe that you will achieve great success in your cultivation. Soon, you will be like Kenshin in the past. You will use your sword to kill the Demon King and save the world. Husband, no matter where I am, I will always remember you and miss you. My heart can only hold you alone, and it will never change in this lifetime. I will wait for you in Shenwu continent forever, until the seas run dry and the rocks crumble. However, if you still do not come to find me when I am strong enough, I will find a way to return to Tianxian continent to find you. Husband, please take care of yourself. Ji Tianqing sat quietly in front of the window and read the letter for a long time. He memorized every word in the letter so that he would never forget it. Chapter 1369. Yunyao had left. She had already left 20 days ago. When he read the letter that Yunyao had left behind, the reluctance and helplessness in her words made Ji Tianqing feel a little sad. However, he did not feel sad, nor did he feel depressed. After all, this was a result that he had expected and had long been destined. Moreover, this temporary separation was for the sake of their next reunion. He believed that it would not be long before he could head to Shenwu continent and meet up with Yunyao. On that continent that was ruled by the gods, there were no demons causing trouble, and there was not so much helplessness and disputes. Perhaps, only there would he and Yunyao be able to stay together and live a peaceful life. Of course, the premise of all this was based on the elimination of the demon's chaos. Yao Yao, wait for me. It won't be long before I come to find you. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself, got up, and left the study. Swoosh. He left Tianqing Palace and flew thousands of feet into the sky, overlooking the mountains below. There were dozens of mountains with spirit veins in the surroundings, and they were the palaces and residences of the dozens of princes. However, after he observed, he found that the palaces were empty and deserted. Most of the princes had already left with their trusted guards. He did not need to guess to know that those princes must have been ordered to return to their respective tribes and fight against the demon army with all their might. He walked around the Emperor Palace again and found that the priests had also left the Emperor Palace. Only 2 priests were left behind to guard the palace. Now that the Emperor Manor is so deserted, it is no longer as sacred and dignified as before. It no longer looks like the sacred land of martial arts in Tianxian continent. It can be seen how tense the situation in the continent is. I'm afraid that the demon army has already invaded Zhongzhou, right? Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and muttered to himself indifferently. With that, he turned and left, flying toward the exit of the Emperor Manor. Swoosh! After a quarter of an hour, he left the Emperor Manor and returned to Zhongzhou city. He flew around the city and found that the situation in the city was much more deserted than 2 months ago. The city was filled with an invisible oppressive aura that made people feel oppressed. In the streets and alleys, there was almost no crowd. Occasionally, some cultivators and commoners would come and go, but all of them had worried looks on their faces, looking anxious and fearful. There were even large numbers of martial artists and commoners gathered near Central State City's southern city gate. Most of these people were humans, all of them dragging their families, bringing their luggage and belongings, lining up in a long line to leave Central Continent City. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing landed in front of the South City Gate. He casually found a middle-aged martial artist in the crowd and asked him about the situation. This person was a human male with a dignified face. He had the strength of the Yuan Dan stage and was dressed luxuriously. His manner of speech and mannerisms were not ordinary. It was obvious that he was from a wealthy family. Beside him were 3 young men and women, 2 madams in gorgeous dresses, and more than a dozen capable servants. The servants were leading a few spirit beasts and carrying several large chests, which seemed to be filled with wealth. Ji Tianqing pulled on the middle-aged man and calmly asked, "This brother, it seems like you are preparing to leave Central Continent City and move your entire family to another place?" The middle-aged man saw his imposing appearance, his eyes as deep as the sea, and his entire body exuding a mysterious aura. He guessed that his strength was high and his identity was not ordinary. Thus, the middle-aged man cupped his hands in greeting and replied, "This young master, to be honest, not only is my family moving, half of the city's commoners are also leaving." Ji Tianqing frowned and asked in confusion, "Why is this?" Central Continent City is the continent's #1 martial arts holy land. It has been peaceful for a long time, so why is everyone moving? The middle-aged man was stunned for a moment, his expression a bit strange as he said, "Little brother, could it be that you don't know about this matter and haven't heard any news?" "What news?" Ji Tianqing revealed a puzzled expression and explained, "I have been in closed-door cultivation and only came out today, so I don't know about the situation." The middle-aged man was relieved and quickly reminded, "Little brother, the demon race army has already killed their way into Central Continent. Central Continent City is in great danger. In the past 2 months, tens of millions of demon race army marched south, attacking cities and destroying strongholds. No one could stop them. The north has long been covered in corpses, the smell of blood overflowing the sky. Fortunately, my clan's emperor personally led the army and stopped the demon race army outside Tianlong Mountain Pass, otherwise the demon race army would have already killed their way to Central Continent City." Ji Tianqing knew that Tianlong Mountain Pass was to the north of Central Continent City, about 100,000 li away. That was an ancient and majestic pass. Since ancient times, it had always been a place that military strategists would fight for. At the same time, Tianlong Mountain Pass was sandwiched between Central Continent and the mountains in the north, acting as a natural barrier between the demon race and Central Continent. To the north of Tianlong Mountain Pass was an endless mountain range, full of barren hills and unruly rivers, extending all the way to the border. To the south of Tianlong Mountain Pass was the flat land of Central Continent, where dozens of cities were located. Once the demon race army crossed Tianlong Mountain Pass, there would be no more obstacles, and they could march straight to Central Continent City. Understanding this point, Ji Tianqing's face suddenly revealed a shocked expression, shouting in disbelief, "How is this possible? How can the demon race army's offensive be so swift and fierce? Even if the demon race's forces are stronger, it's impossible for them to cross hundreds of thousands of li of territory and kill their way to Tianlong Mountain Pass in just 2 months." The middle-aged man nodded in agreement. "Yes, this humble one has been paying attention to the situation at the border. I also find it unbelievable and very puzzling. However, this humble one has inquired about the news. It is said that the tens of millions of demon race army is the main force, the most elite 10 million lions. Moreover, the commander of the demon race army is not one of those demon commanders. It is said that the demon emperor is personally leading the army. Little brother, you should understand how terrifying the demon emperor is, right? Even the demon emperor personally went into battle. How could my clan's soldiers resist? If not for my clan's emperor personally leading the army, I'm afraid that Tianlong Mountain Pass would have already fallen." Speaking up to hear, the middle-aged man looked around, then said in a low voice, "Little brother, don't blame me for not reminding you. You should leave Central Continent City as soon as possible. You can't stay here for long." Although the emperor personally led the army, there are rumors among the people that the demon race army will break through Tianlong Mountain Pass sooner or later, and kill their way to Central Continent City. At that time, it will be too late for you to escape. You are still so young, presumably you are also a descendant of a rich and powerful family. Your future is limitless. If you leave Central Continent City as soon as possible, and flee to the southern continent, where there is life, there is hope. Ji Tianqing understood that this person had good intentions, so he didn't say anything, cupped his hands and thanked him, then turned around and left. He never thought that in just 2 months of secluded cultivation, the situation of the continent would develop to such an extent. The demon emperor personally led the army to attack Central Continent. The Central Continent was in imminent danger. Chapter 1370. From the Central Continent City to the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass, the vast expanse of land spanned 100,000 li. One majestic city after another was situated on this vast land, demonstrating the prosperity of the Central Continent in its golden age. However, when Ji Tianqing flew over from the sky and looked down at the majestic cities below, he saw a completely different scene. Every major city was filled with an atmosphere of panic. The common people were dragging their families out of the city, fleeing to the southern continent. Armored city guards wielding swords were guarding the important roads in the city, looking like they were ready for battle. The once bustling city had unexpectedly become deserted. Not a single person could be seen in the streets and alleys. Even the common people who were unwilling to leave were in low spirits. Their mood was pessimistic and despairing, waiting in fear and torment. 1 city was like this, 2 cities were like this, 3 cities, 5 cities were the same. Ji Tianqing even felt that these cities were shrouded in a layer of haze, a gloomy scene. His mood was also affected, becoming gloomy and oppressive. There was a faint flame throbbing in his chest, stifling a soaring killing intent. He only wanted to slaughter the demon race army wantonly. About 16 hours later, Ji Tianqing finally arrived at the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. Even though he was still several hundred li away, he could already see the general situation of the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass from the sky. The vast expanse of land spanned over 100,000 li was connected to mountain peaks. If one continued north, there would be a continuous chain of mountains. On the ground 400 li away, there was a huge mountain range extending from the west to the east. It was like an incomparably huge city wall, blocking the mountains and plains. Ji Tianqing had studied the topographic map of the Central Continent, and knew that this huge mountain range was called the Northern Pacifying Mountain Range. The name of this mountain range could be traced back to ancient times, when the demon race was wreaking havoc in the world. The 2 words Northern Pacifying implied the pacification of the North, and also represented the aspirations of the common people of the human race. This mountain range originated from the western wilderness territory of the demon race. It stretched for several million li, with countless branches. Between the northern desert and the central continent, there were two barriers. The first barrier was the border. The northern settled mountain ranges barrier was the most difficult line of defense for the devil race to cross. The mountain range was thousands of feet high, and there were deep valleys and ravines in the mountain range. The mountain range was very steep and dangerous, and the terrain was very complicated and rugged. For demon warriors above Sky Origin stage, it wasn't a problem at all. They could just fly through the sky. However, among the tens of millions of demons, only a few of them had reached Sky Origin stage, and all of them were demon kings and demon generals. If the devil race wanted to invade the central plains and conquer the cities and territories of the human race, just relying on the devil kings and devil generals was not enough. In the end, they had to rely on an army of tens of millions. However, the tens of millions of demons were all below the heaven origin realm. Most of them were only at the mystic comprehending realm. As a result, the northern settled mountain range and the treacherous mountains in the north became a great hindrance to the movement of the demon race army. In the towering northern pacifying mountain range, there was a huge canyon that was hundreds of miles long. That was the famous Heaven Dragon Pass. If the demon army wanted to go south to attack the central continent, they would have to pass through the Heaven Dragon Pass. Ever since the defense line at the border collapsed, the human army kept retreating and finally retreated to the northern pacifying mountain range. The main force of the human race army was concentrated in the vicinity of the Heaven Dragon Pass, tenaciously resisting with all their might. Everyone knew that once the Heaven Dragon Pass fell, the demon race army would be able to invade the central plains like a ferocious tiger in a flock of sheep, and wantonly slaughter the common people. Therefore, no matter what, the human race army would defend the Heaven Dragon Pass to the death, and fight a bloody battle to the last moment. Ji Tianqing looked down at the northern pacifying mountain range from the sky, and immediately saw the towering and steep Heaven Dragon Pass. The Heaven Dragon Pass, which was hundreds of miles deep and 20 miles wide, was like a gap and natural moat, cutting the northern pacifying mountain range in two. Outside the Heaven Dragon Pass, dark clouds were rolling in the sky, and demonic fog was spreading everywhere. Obviously, a terrifying number of demons had gathered there. The strong and pungent smell of blood was carried by the whistling north wind, and was unceasingly coming. Inside the Heaven Dragon Pass, the land within a radius of 300 miles was densely packed with military tents and houses. Millions of human soldiers were stationed there. On the mountain range on both sides of the pass, millions of human soldiers were also stationed there. Along the mountain range, 1,000 miles long line of defense was spread out. Ji Tianqing's eyes swept around the Heaven Dragon Pass, and saw that the ground and the mountain range were full of human figures, densely packed like a colony of ants. Even in the sky above the pass, there were tens of thousands of elite experts, riding on spirit birds, cruising and patrolling, and monitoring the movements around. In addition, he also saw a golden light barrier in the Heaven Dragon Pass, like a light ball with a radius of 200 miles, protecting the entire Heaven Dragon Pass. That was a defensive formation, used to protect the Heaven Dragon Pass and resist the demon race army. It had existed since the ancient times. Even though he was hundreds of miles away, Ji Tianqing could clearly sense that the energy fluctuations emitted by the defensive formation were very powerful and vast. With his attainments in formations, of course, he could tell that it was a primordial soul-level formation, and its power was extraordinary. Swoosh! He slowed down his flying speed, and flew over the military tents, and observed the situation in the camp. He saw tens of thousands of military tents and houses, scattered over hundreds of miles of land. Outside each tent and house, there were elite soldiers guarding. Groups of armored soldiers, holding spears and halberds, shuttled back and forth in the camp, nervously and vigilantly. There were also many sergeants, moving like the wind, carrying many seriously injured soldiers from the front line, and sending them back to the camp for treatment. The entire human camp was filled with tension, depression, and austere atmosphere. Everyone's nerves were taut, and they were very alert and vigilant. Even the soldiers who were resting in the camp were also wearing their armor, ready to fight at any time. Just as Ji Tianqing was observing the situation in the camp, a group of black-armored soldiers riding spirit beasts quickly flew over and surrounded him. "Who are you?" The leader of the group rode on the flying bird spirit beast. He took a step forward and stopped in front of Ji Tianqing, then asked in a stern voice. Ji Tianqing took out the seal of mountains and rivers expressionlessly, and said majestically, "I am Ji Tianqing, the lord of the Heaven Dragon territory." The leader's face suddenly changed. After seeing the seal of the territory lord, he immediately saluted respectfully with his hands folded. Ji Tianqing put away the seal of mountains and rivers, and said majestically, "Are the emperor and the imperial tutor in the camp?" "This." The leader suddenly looked embarrassed, and hurriedly explained, "Your Excellency, I am just a small patrol leader, and I am not qualified to know the whereabouts of the emperor." Ji Tianqing thought that it made sense. The emperor and the imperial tutor were too high in status. Except for the generals, no one could get in touch with them. Chapter 1371. The demon army had arrived at Tianlong Pass, and the situation was so critical. Emperor Long Yunshao naturally had to lead the army to participate in the battle. The millions of human soldiers were divided into 8 groups, each led by 8 commanders. Long Yunshao was one of the 8 commanders, and he was in charge of the Flying Dragon camp's main tent. The patrol captain brought Ji Tianqing to the Flying Dragon camp, then turned and left. After verifying his identity, a general of the Flying Dragon camp personally brought him to the main tent to see Long Yunshao. When Ji Tianqing entered the main tent and saw Long Yunshao was standing beside a large sand table, discussing military affairs with a dozen or so generals. "Emperor, how have you been?" Ji Tianqing calmly walked to the sand table and greeted Long Yunshao. Long Yunshao lowered his head and looked at the sand table, thinking about something. Suddenly hearing Ji Tianqing's voice, his body shook, and he quickly raised his head to look at the door. Seeing that Ji Tianqing had arrived, his eyes shone brightly, and his spirits were instantly lifted up a little. "Tianqing, you've finally come out of seclusion. Great, you've come just in time." As he spoke, he walked toward Ji Tianqing and cupped his hands to salute him. After the two greeted each other, he pulled Ji Tianqing to the sand table and introduced Ji Tianqing to everyone. When the dozen or so generals learned that the person who came was Ji Tianqing, they immediately showed excitement and reverence, and saluted him one after another. "Greetings, Lord Ji." "Greetings, Prince Tianqing. I really didn't expect you to come here personally." Prince Tianqing's fame has long spread across the continent like thunder. "I didn't expect to see you in person today." "I'm really honored." All the generals were very respectful to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing exchanged a few pleasantries with the generals and quickly got to the main topic of their discussion. "Son of Heaven, I just came out of my closed-door training today and got the news that the Devil Race's army has invaded the Tianlong Mountain Pass, so I quickly rushed over. Along the way, I saw that the people in the various cities were in a state of panic. The people were fleeing their homes to hide in the south. What was the current situation in the Heaven Dragon Pass? What about the movements of the demon army?" Long Yunshao nodded and said with a grave expression, "Tianqing, it's not just the cities you passed by. The people of the hundreds of cities in the Central Plains are in a state of panic. They are in a precarious situation. After the demon race army broke through the defense line at the border, they rushed south for hundreds of thousands of li, occupying hundreds of cities and towns along the way and slaughtering millions of our people. Now, the north of Tianlong Mountain Pass had been lost. Wherever the Devil Race army passed, the people were in a terrible situation. Not even a blade of grass grew. It was simply like a miserable purgatory on earth. As the news spread, the people of the Central Plains were all terrified. There are even rumors among the people that our clan's army will definitely not be able to defend Tianlong Mountain Pass, and will soon fall. When that time comes, the entire central province will fall. Deluding the people with lies. Ji Tianqing's face darkened. He shouted with a cold voice, "Those bastards who added fuel to the fire, spread rumors, and deluded the people should be severely punished." Long Yunxiao nodded in agreement and said, "That's right. 10 days ago, I was in the Central Plains, comforting the people of our clan. I also ordered a group of people who spread rumors to be severely punished. Unfortunately, I couldn't stop the news from spreading. On the contrary, it made the people even more panicked. Alas, for now, I can only obey the emperor's order and ignore the people of the Central Plains, rushing to the Tianlong mountain pass to defend against the enemy." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said in a sonorous voice, "Tianlong mountain pass is the last line of defense of our clan. No matter what, we can't lose it. Even if all the soldiers of our clan die here, we will fight to the last moment and not yield an inch." His tone was firm and forceful, powerful and resonant. Immediately, all the generals felt their blood boil, and their eyes burned with fighting spirit. Long Yunxiao looked at him deeply and thought, Tianqing's strength has become even more unfathomable after his seclusion. There is also a mysterious temperament around him, just like the emperor. He frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he suddenly realized and exclaimed in his heart, "I understand now. Tianqing's temperament is the temperament of a leader." Just a moment ago, the generals were full of sadness and pessimism. But after Tianqing arrived, with just a few words, he rekindled everyone's hope and fighting spirit. This is the temperament of a leader. It has invisibly infected them. Understanding this point, Long Yunxiao was even more shocked. He was very clear that there were many martial arts experts on the continent, but there were very few who had the temperament of a leader. Only the Palace Master, the Emperor, the Golden Dragon Emperor, and the Heavenly Demon Emperor had such a powerful aura. Now, there was also Ji Tianqing. After a moment of silence, Long Yunxiao calmed down and pointed to the sand table in front of him and said, "Tianqing, you've just arrived at the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass, so you definitely don't know the situation of the war. Let me introduce you, I'm all ears." Ji Tianqing nodded and looked at the sand table with calm and wise eyes. The sand table with a radius of a few meters clearly simulated the topographic map of the area with a radius of 10,000 miles. From the northern pacifying mountain range and the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass to the small peaks, valleys, and rivers within 10,000 miles, the simulation was very lifelike. On the flat ground south of the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass, there were 8 small golden flags, each engraved with a few lines of small words. Long Yunxiao pointed to the area and said, "Tianqing, we've now gathered a total of 10 million troops south of the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. The Emperor has sent 2 million troops to the east and west sides of the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass, along the mountain range, and set up many sentry posts and barracks to prevent the demon army from crossing the northern pacifying mountain range. The remaining 8 million troops are stationed under the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass and are divided into 8 barracks, each under the command of 8 commanders." Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and asked, "Who are the 8 commanders?" Long Yunxiao replied, "I'm the commander of the Flying Dragon Camp, with over 1 million soldiers under my command. They are all elite troops gathered by the imperial court from the central continent. Divine General Xiao Han of the East Woods Camp, with 800,000 troops under his command, all of which were gathered from the eastern continent. Additionally, Yun Zhongqi is the commander of the Storm Camp, with tens of thousands of elites from the Cloud Spirit Palace and 1 million soldiers from the central continent. Divine General Wang Yu is the commander of the Midcourt Camp, with 1 million soldiers under his command. The Divine General of the North and the new Divine General of the West each lead 1 million soldiers, most of which are the remnants of the soldiers who retreated from the border. There are also 2 million soldiers under the command of 2 Grand Marshals of the Imperial Court. The 2 Grand Marshals are this monarch's uncles, monarchs with real power in the Imperial Court. They are loyal to the Imperial Court and have both served as Grand Marshals. Their strength has also reached the 5th level of the Spirit Refinement Realm." Ji Tianqing immediately understood. The commanders of the 8 million human army were Long Yunxiao, Yun Zhongqi, the Divine General of the 4 Directions, and the 2 Grand Marshals. He stared at the sand table and looked past the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass to the area north of the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. The area was filled with towering mountains and steep terrain, but it was filled with small black flags, giving off a dense demonic aura. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.